Nightmare Academy, written by Frank Peretti, recorded by Frank Peretti.
Chapter 1, The Kid in the Padded Room. "Harborview," said the taxi driver, pulling up in front of an immense hospital in Seattle. Harborview Hospital, part of the Seattle skyline for generations, was known as the place to send the really tough cases. Nelson Farmer, a tall, dour-faced man, went inside. "Oh, good evening." Dr. Cal Madison, white-haired and soft-spoken, met him in the hall. "Thank you for coming, Mr. He looked once again at Farmer's business card. "Farmer, from the D.C. office. You've come a long way." "Not really," said Farmer. "I was out on the West Coast on business anyway. I just made a little side trip." Madison had to think about that one. "Anyway, I'm not sure what information you have at this point." "It was found on the highway, somewhere in Idaho. North central Idaho, I think. A very mountainous region. Not much civilization to speak of." They passed through a door marked Observation and Evaluation, then entered a darkened room with one large window. The window of two-way glass opened on another room, and in the center of the room, curled up on the floor like a cowering animal, was a boy. He lay motionless except for a trembling, involuntary curling and uncurling of his fingers. His eyes stared at the floor, unwavering, unblinking. "We judge him to be about 15 years old. He wasn't carrying any ID, so we have no idea who he is. You need to see this." Madison stepped out, closing the door behind him, leaving Farmer in the darkened room. A moment later, as Farmer watched, the door to the padded room opened, and Madison stepped inside. He knelt beside the boy and asked him, "How are you doing?" "I don't know." "Do you need anything?" "I don't know." "Can you tell me your name?" "I don't know." The boy replied, "I don't know," to every question. Farmer pulled a file folder from his briefcase and opened it. The first page included a photograph of a young man. The very same young man. When Madison returned, Farmer shook his head. "Very disturbing. It's as if his whole mind has been erased. All knowledge, all logic, gone." Farmer nodded thoughtfully. "I'm glad you called. I'll arrange to have him transferred immediately. The best way for us to identify this young man and return him to his parents, if there are any, is to put him under protective custody so we can make a positive identification." I'm not familiar with this procedure." "We don't use it very often. Only in special cases, such as this one." "I'm sorry. That's impossible. This young man is a patient in this hospital, and we can't release him. He's in no condition to be moved anywhere. When this boy's parents say to release him, then I'll release him. Until then, he's under my care and responsibility, and he stays here." "We don't even know who the parents are." "Well, that's your job, isn't it? To reunite missing and runaway children with their families? Now, we've provided the boy's fingerprints and everything we know about him. You're the one with the nationwide computer database. I think it's time you got to work." Farmer grabbed up his briefcase. "This is not going to go well for you." "I'll see you and your threats to the door, Mr. Farmer." A week later, Dr. Cal Madison attended a medical conference within comfortable driving distance from Washington, D.C., where he arranged to have dinner with an old friend. Madison spoke in secretive tones, carefully pausing whenever a waitress walked by. He handed the documents across the dinner table to his guest. "Alvin Rogers, age 15, Thousand Oaks, California. He and a friend, Harold Carlson, ran away a month ago. The Carlson boy is still missing." "So now you're wondering why this Farmer character needed custody of your patient in order to identify him." "Exactly. It wasn't necessary. I called the BMC, and he works for them all right, but the people I talked to weren't aware of any such policy. According to the people at the central office right here in Washington, he left rather urgently with only one destination, Seattle." "There's more. When I expressed my surprise that the Bureau would send one of their top-level people clear across the country instead of letting the local office in Seattle handle it, he told me the local office probably didn't have the records yet. Do you find that believable?" "But you got the information right off the internet. If you could get the information, then certainly the branch offices would have it." "Exactly. And incidentally, I never heard back from Farmer." The guest stroked his brow, staring at the half-eaten steak on his plate. not a lot to go on, but enough perhaps to interest you and Veritas. I'm very concerned, especially for the other boy who's still out there somewhere. Whatever happened to Alvin Rogers could happen to him. The guest, a man named Morgan, paged through the documents one more time. I'll put some feelers out. I'll let you know, hopefully by tomorrow. In Washington, D.C., far from the Capitol dome, sits an old red brick building with office space and apartments for rent. Morgan arrived early and went into a plain little office on the 5th floor, where small black letters on the door quietly announced, "The Veritas Project." He flipped the light switch on without having to look at it and strode quickly to the fax machine. A fax had arrived. From the letterhead he knew it was the one he was expecting. The White House. Excellent. The president had received his message from last night and was responding. But strange. The president didn't usually send faxes to this office on White House letterhead. Usually the message came on plain white paper, no fancy labels, no obvious identifiers, nothing to call attention. He froze momentarily as his eyes fell on the message. "Under no circumstances are you to investigate this." Morgan stood there a moment, the fax in his hand. The president had never sent such a short message, and never in all capital letters, and never without an explanation or follow-up questions. Morgan took the fax into his office and sank into his chair, letting it swivel him toward the window. The front door rattled open. It was his secretary, Consuela. "Good morning, boss." "Good morning. I'll make the coffee." "Please." "Oh," she came into his office. "You left your paper by the fax machine." She brought him the morning paper he'd forgotten about, unfolded it, and an envelope fell to the floor. Morgan stared at it for a split second, then picked it up and carefully opened it. Inside, a DVD in a white windowed envelope. A small note was attached bearing only 2 words. "Call them." "Consuela, call the airlines. Book me a flight for Missoula, Montana." Morgan pulled out the materials he'd gotten from his dinner with Madison and thumbed through them once again. The Springfields need to see this one. Chapter 2, On the Dark Side. Elijah Springfield, 16, had saddled the horses. His twin sister, Elisha, stood nearby, weight shifted to one hip, hat cocked back on her head. "Okay, Einstein, let's do some riding." The afternoon sun was still high, and the Montana sky deep blue. Elijah mounted his horse. Elisha had just put her foot in the stirrup when the dinner bell rang, but not for dinner. This was a special ring, calling them to the house for something important. Elisha, her hand on the saddle horn, wilted and then let go. "I hope it's you this time." Elijah dismounted, slightly miffed. "Hey! I fixed that fence rail. I owe no man anything." They came around the barn and looked across the pasture toward the big log ranch house. A rental car was parked in front, and Mom and Dad stood on the veranda with, was that Mr. Morgan? They gathered in the lofty, rough-hewn family room, Nate and Sarah Springfield, Elijah and Elisha. Morgan showed them photographs and documents. Then he slipped a DVD into their home entertainment system. "The clips you're about to see were videotaped at Harborview Hospital in Seattle by a friend of mine, Dr. Madison. I sent this footage to the White House along with our proposal, and you've seen the response I got. Under no circumstances were we to investigate this. Then, lo and behold, within minutes I found the entire contents of the videotape copied onto this DVD and hidden between the pages of my morning newspaper, along with a handwritten note." "Believable denial," said Nate. "Exactly," said Morgan. "If anything goes wrong, if the wrong people find out about this, the president can always say he told us not to get involved, that his administration had nothing to do with our investigation. Whoever sent the DVD did so without the president's direct knowledge, and he can say so." "Sounds shady to me," said Elisha. "It is. But it's obvious this whole operation has to be conducted with the same kind of caution, in the utmost secrecy. That's the rub. You're being asked to find out some things without knowing entirely why, or who knows why, or why such information is so important to whomever." Sarah shrugged her shoulders and said, Sounds like a government project to me. So let's see what's on the disc, Nate said. Upon seeing the very first image, the Springfields leaned forward in their seats, eyes riveted to the screen. They were watching the mindless, blank-eyed behavior of Alvin Rogers. He lay in the center of the padded room, twitching nervously, looking at nothing, as a hospital nurse tried to start a conversation. Watch what happens next, said Morgan. A man and a woman entered the padded room, and the kid, crazy or not, fell into their arms and started crying. He knows who Mom and Dad are, said Sarah, getting a tear in her eye. So he knows something, said Nate. And immediately he started talking. But check this out. The recording cut to a later scene. Now the kid, frightened and agitated, was spilling a torrent of words to his folks as they sat on the floor beside his bed. I come to see the sky, but it was upside down, and I run, but not swimming, just running and climbing. It was dark, and it hurt my eyes. Terrible. I kept falling, going up, never stopped, and it hurt, and I just didn't know. Where was this? His father asked. Bending down. Couldn't reach it. Couldn't climb either. Had to go swimming, but the door wasn't there. His father said to someone off camera, Where in the world has he been? Who did this to him? Morgan interjected. Listen to this. Nightmare, said Alvin Rogers. Alvin's mother asked, What? Nightmare. The boy began to tremble. Nightmare Academy. His eyes grew wide, as if looking into a hell only he could see, and no more words came, only a long, pitiful wail. He began to kick and struggle, trying to back away from whatever he was seeing. Turn the camera off! Turn it off! Said his father, while trying to hold the boy down. The image shook, then blinked out. 1 month before this was recorded, Alvin Rogers was a fairly normal high school sophomore in Thousand Oaks, California. He was bright, and he stayed out of trouble. For whatever reason, maybe just for something crazy to do, he and a friend named Harold Carlson ran away from home and got as far as Seattle before disappearing. Now Alvin has turned up crazy and Harold is still missing. I guess you can figure out what your assignment's going to be, if you want it. Find out what happened to Alvin, Nate responded. And what became of Harold, Sarah added. And what the Nightmare Academy is, Elijah said. And what the truth is behind the whole thing, Elisha concluded. Morgan nodded. We'll put you in touch with a youth shelter in Seattle where the boys were last seen, and see if you can pick up their trail from there. I'll help you in any way I can, but remember, we're hunting for something that cannot know it's being hunted, or it might disappear before we can find it, Elijah said. Cool. Guess I'd better unsaddle the horses, Elisha said. Seattle, Washington is a beautiful city at night, a blanket of jewels mirrored in water, and when the sky is clear, the glimmering towers of downtown mingle with the stars. But, like every city, Seattle has its dark side, its troubled streets, its districts of decay that become gathering places for those who have nowhere else to go. This night, 2 wanderers apparently found each other while trying to stake a claim to a small stretch of concrete sidewalk and marble building that were still warm from the daytime sun. One was a boy about 16, dressed in ragged jeans, stocking cap, and tattered, oversized mackinaw. The other was a girl about the same age, with black, stringy hair, wearing a khaki jacket, jeans with holes in the knees, and a second-hand wool cap. Her only luxury was a pair of headphones, apparently her way of shutting out the outside world. Across the street and up half a block, in the doorway of a bygone brewery, a tired old vagrant relaxed on the concrete steps, his back against the bricks, just watching the never-stopping traffic. He coughed, pulled the collar of his old coat closer around his face, and spoke in a quiet voice. How's it look to you, Sarah? At the other end of the block, in the back of a large van, Sarah sat before an impressive bench of electronic gear and radio receivers, monitoring the conversation. We might try under the overpass again. The people at the youth shelter say a lot of runaway kids congregate there on the weekends after it gets late. Nate responded, Are you kids ready for another night under the overpass? Elisha made a face despite herself. She told her brother, They're talking about another night under the overpass. It's just hard to... Whoa. Just a minute. Somebody's coming. Elijah tried to look without looking. He saw her, too. I think she's looking at us. Nate could see the woman they were referring to. She was a young and pretty redhead, and obviously not a runaway or vagrant. She was dressed casually in dark slacks, woolly red sweater, pricey running shoes. "Hi," said the woman as she knelt down and offered a business card. "I'm Margaret Jones. I work with the Light of Day Youth Shelter just a few blocks from here. If you need a place to stay tonight, we have rooms. We'll give you a good hot meal, a shower if you like, and your own room with your own bed. No questions asked." Elijah asked, "What's the catch?" "Oh, no catch. We're a charitable organization, and we've been working the streets for 9 years. Elisha, staying in character, gave a cynical sneer. "You're not the Living Way Youth Shelter, are you? We've already been there." The woman laughed apologetically. No. We're somebody else. We just want to help kids in trouble. You may like us, you may not, but at least you'll have a room for the night." She held out another business card. Elijah accepted it with a shrug and read it aloud. "Margaret Jones, Light of Day Youth Shelter, 203 Miller Street. Shelter, Rescue, Counseling." Sarah entered the name and address on a laptop computer. "I'm not getting any matches. I thought Living Way was the only youth shelter around here." Nate carefully eyed the woman talking to his kids, thinking it over. No matches in the computer. No record of this particular youth shelter. A pleasant, non-threatening woman with business cards. It could be perfectly legitimate, or it could be a very sly trap. He spoke into his collar. "This could be it. Let's take it slow, one step at a time." Chapter 3. Truth and Soup. "It beats another night on the street," Elijah conceded, taking his sister's cue. "Great," said Margaret Jones. "Come on, I'll walk you there." She started up the street at a leisurely pace, and the kids followed her. They came to an intersection and turned right, heading up the hill. Margaret Jones kept on talking, but there was something strangely rehearsed about it, as if she was driving at something. "That's great. How about you? What should I call you? You don't have to use your real name. Call me Jerry. Jerry, how about you? Do you believe in God?" "Absolutely." "So, do you think that helps you to be honest?" He decided to act dull about it. "Sure, I guess." "Here we are," said Margaret, pulling the door open. "Wow," said Elijah as they followed Margaret from room to room. "A game room, a pool table, a library." Elisha narrated as well. "Hey, you even have an elevator. That takes you up to the rooms. Do you want to see your rooms first, or do you want to eat first?" "Let's eat," said Elijah, and he wasn't acting. Sarah opened the passenger door of the van to let a dirty vagrant enter. Nate climbed into the expansive freight compartment, removed his coat and hat, then took a chair next to the radio console. From where they were parked, they had a good view of the shelter through the van's passenger window. They could hear the kids still talking, describing the place. Elisha's voice came over the radio as she conversed with Margaret. "So, how many kids are here? At last count, I think around 20. Some have been here for a week or so, and some are fresh off the street, just like you. Grab a spoon. Bowls are over there. I think I'll take these headphones off." Sarah and Nate exchanged a glance. Elisha was letting them know she wouldn't be able to hear them for a while. "So, how long have you been on the road?" "A while." Yeah, a while." "So how's it been going?" Not great. We're both low on money. Guess that's obvious, and stealing's wrong, so..." "Really?" Elijah looked up from his soup. "Really what? You believe stealing is wrong?" "Yeah. Is that news?" "Oh, no, not at all. But it's refreshing to see. Say, I want to show you something." She slid 2 brochures across the table, one for each of them. "I don't show this to everybody, but you two are kind of special. Now, as always, there's no obligation." Elijah picked up the brochure and opened it. He read the copy inside. "A very special opportunity to be all you can be, and we pay the bill." He was reading for information, of course, but also stalling for time, trying to make sure his voice would not quiver when he finally read the title out loud. The Night Moore Academy." What is it?" Elisha asked, careful to control her voice. "It's like a cross between a summer school and a summer camp," Margaret replied. "It's a place where kids just like yourselves can get away from the city and have the chance to get a grip on things. We offer classes for high school credits, if you're interested. And if you want, counseling, guidance, and discussion groups. And where is it? Up in the mountains, not far from here. Elijah and Elisha looked at each other. Pay dirt. Margaret came on like a saleslady. It's free. Free room and board for as long as you need to stay, and no one will ask you your real name, where you're from, or any other private information. The academy is there for you, to give you time to sort things out, to find yourself. So who's paying for all this? Oh, it's a government pilot program in its 5th year, the only one of its kind. It's kind of an experiment, actually. So if you choose to go, your feedback is going to be very important to us. Elijah read from the brochure for the benefit of those listening. A peaceful 30-acre campus deep in the heart of the National Forest where guests can relax, restore, and return to successful lives. So, we can leave whenever we want? Of course. How do we get there? A bus leaves here every Sunday morning. Your timing couldn't be more perfect. You can spend the night and get on the bus in the morning. So, are you interested? That was an easy question. Count me in, said Elisha. Sure, said Elijah. I'll give it a try. Nate and Sarah heard the elevator door open, then close. It began lifting, the cables creaking. Sarah called, Elisha, do you have your headphones on? Elisha's voice came back, pretending to talk to Margaret. Pardon me for putting these on. I'm halfway through the final cut. No problem, said Margaret. Nate and Sarah heard the elevator door open. Sarah said, Elisha, we're going to check out the academy. Go ahead and get some sleep. Be sure to call us the moment you wake up in the morning. Downstairs, in the kitchen, the cook carefully took Elijah's and Elisha's bowls, spoons, and glasses into a small office and closed the door. He took out a soft brush and lightly dusted them with fine black powder. Carefully holding a drinking glass up to the light, he nodded to himself. Good fingerprints. The hospital hallway was quiet. A night nurse sat alone behind her small reception desk, working on paperwork by the light of a desk lamp, waiting for the rest of the night staff to return from their dinner break. When the nurse went down the hall, a tall, shadowy figure emerged quickly from the stairway door, slipped past her unoccupied desk, and into observation and evaluation. He hurried silently down the narrow hallway to a padded room. Silently he entered and went to the bedside of a sleeping boy. He reached into a leather case at his side, selecting his instruments. This would not take long. Nate! It took several nudges before Nate realized it was Sarah. He rolled over on his cot, eyes still blurry. What time is it? I'm not getting a signal. What do you mean? There's no signal. They've quit transmitting. He checked his watch. It was 10 minutes after 6 in the morning. Let's get over there. The letters painted on the window and on the front door of the old stone building read, The Dartmoor Hotel. So, okay, the youth shelter is using an old hotel. It makes sense. So why isn't there a sign up in the window? Don't stare too long. She forced herself to look away and appear detached. It is a hotel. He looked through the window and could see a small lobby and a registration desk with a clerk sitting behind it. He pushed the door open, and they went inside. The place was dead quiet. The clerk behind the registration desk looked bored reading the paper. They approached the desk. Excuse me? The clerk looked up. He was a little man. Can I help you? We're looking for the Light of Day Youth Shelter. The clerk looked at them blankly. I'm sorry. We're trying to find the Light of Day Youth Shelter. Oh, there's a youth shelter down on 2nd, Living Way, something like that. No. We're looking for the Light of Day Youth Shelter, the one at 203 Miller Street. Oh, well, I guess you have the wrong address. This is the Dartmoor Hotel. It's been at this address for 50 years. Nate started for the door. Sarah needed a little prodding, so he took her arm. She almost objected, but he told her, We've got the wrong building. When they reached the sidewalk outside, she looked back. Nate, this was it. This was the building. He was embarrassed. Can't be. Come on, we better circle the block. We got to find our kids before that bus comes. He drove from the driver's seat, and she drove from the passenger seat as they rounded the block, then tried the next block, then the next, then went up the hill to the next avenue and doubled back, circling all those blocks. They found no Light of Day Youth Shelter, nor any building that even resembled it. And, of course, the address they'd copied down the night before had not changed. It stubbornly remained 203 Miller Street. Nate parked the van across the street and half a block from the Dartmoor Hotel. Sarah went in the back and searched through the recording they'd made the night before until she found Elijah's voice reading the address off Margaret Jones's business card, 203 Miller Street. Then she and Nate sat silently as the recording kept playing, and they could hear the voices of young people in the background. Laughter, talking, dishes clinking, the distant clack of pool balls hitting each other, the goofy one-liners of Jay Leno opening The Tonight Show. Then they heard the voices of Elijah and Elisha describing the game room, the kitchen, the dining hall. They were trying to think instead of panicking. Then they heard Margaret's voice telling Elijah, "Jerry, you can take room 305. They were out of the van in an instant, dashing across the street, up the block, down the narrow alley. The Dartmoor Hotel had a back stairway. They went up the stairs as quickly as quiet would allow, then stole down the third-floor hallway. It was messy. They found the door to room 305. Inside, a radio was playing softly. Sarah knocked on the door. Jerry? Who is it? Whatever you're selling. We don't want any. Back in the front seat of the van, Nate and Sarah were speechless for an unnatural length of time. Whoever they are, they're very good at what they do. And they have our kids. Nate punched in a number on the van's cell phone, switching it to speakerphone so they could both converse. Mr. Morgan answered on the second ring. "Nate, I was going to call you." "Morgan, we've tracked the kids to a certain point, and... And? The kids aren't there. But that point isn't there anymore either. It's gone, like it never existed." "Morgan, who in the world are we dealing with?" There was a significant pause before Morgan replied. "I have one clue for you. Alvin Rogers, the boy in the hospital, is dead. And I'm quite..." Chapter 4. Waking Up in Nightmare. Elijah began to wake up, but very slowly. He sat up on the bed, pausing a moment to let some dizziness pass. With some effort, he rose to his feet and went to the window. He remembered he and Elisha did agree to give the Nightmoor Academy a try, but he hadn't the slightest memory of how they got from that moment and that place to this one. A male voice called from outside the door.
"Hello, Jerry? You awake?"
"Okay," Elijah told himself. "I'm still Jerry." Who is it?"
"Clyde Stern, the dorm superintendent. Let's go. You've got a meeting with the dean in 5 minutes.
Elijah opened the door. The man standing outside was dressed in a burgundy blazer, white shirt, black slacks, black tie. He made a face as if he were looking at a slob. "Where's your uniform?" I don't know about any uniform." Stern looked past Elijah into the room. "Don't give me that. It's right there in your closet. What have you been doing all morning?" "Bingham's going to have a cow." "Who?" "Mr. Bingham, the dean, remember?" "I guess I'd better change." "No time, kid. Bingham doesn't wait." Elijah followed Stern, walking briskly. Nothing was making much sense yet. His mind was still fuzzy. He could definitely smell himself, and he was still trying to catch up with everything. "What about that girl who was with me?" She's going to meet us there." So she's okay?" "She's great, in a lot better shape than you are right now." They went out a door and into the sunshine, taking a walkway that led across the campus. "I take it this is the Nightmoor Academy?" "This is the place. That's the library right there. That building over there is the recreation hall. That's the dining hall. We have 4 dorm buildings. A and C are for girls, B and D are for boys. Don't get them mixed up." The scenery all around the place was spectacular. Mountains, tall forests, snow-covered peaks in the distance. "So how did I get here?" "Man, you'd better get tuned in. You rode the bus up here. Don't tell me you don't remember." "I don't remember." I can believe it. We get a lot of your kind in here, so strung out they don't remember anything." Elijah had been eyeing one thing that looked out of place. At the far edge of the athletic field was a high stone wall with a big iron gate. And on the forested hill beyond that wall stood an impressive mansion with ornate gables, complex corners, tall windows. "You don't want to go up there." But what is it?" Here comes that girlfriend of yours." Elijah looked up the sidewalk, and the sight made his day. His sister was coming their way, accompanied by a small, bookish woman. Elisha was wearing a female version of the standard Nightmoor uniform. Burgundy blazer, black skirt. Somebody made a fortune selling uniforms to this place. She looked like a posh private school girl. She broke into a big smile when she saw him. "Hey, you're alive!" "Pretty much," he answered, deciding not to run and hug her. "You look like dirt." "Yeah, rub it in." "Step this way," said Mr. Stern. "Mr. Bingham's waiting." "You feeling okay?" kind of woozy. Me too. Hello. Welcome to Knightsmoor Academy. You don't have to give me your real names. I am Mr. Bingham, your Academy Dean. Hi. Young man, you do have a uniform, don't you? I wasn't aware of it until 5 minutes ago. Uniforms are one of the few requirements we have here. They're important. They maintain comradeship among the students. We are all equals here. Mr. Bingham, just where is this place? Where would you like it to be? I don't mean to evade your question, but starting now, you must consider this a rare opportunity to create your own world, the way you would have it. Wherever you came from, you were controlled by the expectations of those around you. Parents, teachers, church. You did what they told you. You believed what they told you. And truth, well, truth was theirs, not yours. But you fled from that, didn't you? Trying to find your own way. A world, a truth that fits you better than what you had at home. So, consider this the first real step of your journey. Here's where you can think for yourself, study for yourself, to find your own truth, whatever you want it to be. My own truth? You're permitted to be yourself if you so choose, but you can also choose to be somebody else. What matters is that you are happy with whom and what you decide to be. He began to walk slowly, studying them from different angles. As part of this process, we require participation in discussion circles with Mr. Easley, a chance for you to toss around new ideas and for us to gauge how well we're doing. There will be a discussion circle at 1:30. Please be there. For your own safety, this is a closed campus. No leaving. We're out in the middle of hostile wilderness, with national forest for miles in all directions. If you venture too far into those woods, you could become lost, and we would have no way to find you. And besides, we not only have bears, we have cougars. So the only safe place is inside the boundaries of the campus. Are there telephones? Oh, heavens, no! That would bring in the outside world and taint everything we're trying to accomplish here. But just what are you trying to accomplish? No doubt you've noticed the mansion on the hill? Sure have. What's up there? The mansion is off limits. This campus is your home. The mansion belongs to your faculty and leadership. We all have our own kingdoms. You have yours here, we have ours there. Respect that. Agreed? They nodded. Agreed. I assume you have very little money. Bingham brought out 2 small cloth bags closed with drawstrings. These are Knightsmoor dollars. He handed each of them a bag. Inside were shiny metal coins the size of a quarter and light in weight. These are the Academy currency, good for purchases at the campus exchange. Each of you gets 25 KMs to start. You can earn more and spend it all. It's up to you. He sank into his chair. On behalf of the faculty and staff, welcome. Thank you, they answered, still bewildered. The door opened again, on cue. Mr. Stern ushered them out of the office and back down the hall toward the front door. Morgan's face spoke from the screen on Sarah's laptop. We'll have to communicate through this discreet system and not trust the telephones. Let's not help our adversaries any further. Morgan, they have our children. They mustn't know it. They have to think they've picked up 2 runaways, not 2 investigators. Keep in mind that whoever it is could have spies in the sheriff's department, the police, the Bureau for Missing Children, the hospital staff, anyone and everyone who had anything to do with Alvin Rogers. And until we find out more about Nelson Farmer, I wouldn't go anywhere near the BMC. You're not making this easy. We'll be in touch. The image blinked off the screen, leaving Nate and Sarah feeling very alone. Sarah wasn't about to sit still, not with her kids missing. Nate, we have to trust somebody. How about our friends at the youth shelter? The real one. Alicia had that new girl in school feeling as she approached the volleyball game. None of the kids playing the game paid her any mind. The game was getting intense, coming down to the wire. Mr. Easley sounded his whistle. Okay, that's it. That's game 21-18. Good job. No fair, a black girl in dreadlocks wailed, pointing at the tall white guy. The ball hit the ground before he hit it. So, said the black girl's companion, a stocky Hispanic who must have cut her own hair. Mr. Easley had to blow his whistle to get their attention. Listen, see what you're doing? You're falling into that old trap again, trying to see things as either or. You're saying either they won or we did. That's either or. But let me ask you this. Did you enjoy the game? Yeah, till a few seconds ago, said the little Hispanic. Then it was an experience, wasn't it? You have power over the experience to make it what you want. So it's the experience that matters. If you enjoyed playing the game, then you've already won as long as you think you've won. You can all be winners and the score doesn't have to mean anything. That's both and. Come on, Maria. See if you can say it using both and. Maria gave a grumpy sigh and attempted it. Both our team and their team won. There was a collective moan from several. All right, yeah. Listen. If the experience was yours and you enjoyed it, then you won. There's no winning or losing here. There's no right or wrong. There's just the game and what you make of it. Hey, this is the new girl. Let's make her welcome. What name would you like? Alicia was confused by the question. What name? I guess Sally? Everybody, this is Sally. Girls and boys came forward, shaking her hand. A cute blonde with wire-rimmed glasses stepped up. You the new girl in room 4? Yes. Cool! We're roommates. Alicia smiled. So, you're Alice. Mrs. Meeks was telling me about you. I was Alice yesterday. I'm Marcy today. Oh, okay. Marcy, I'm from Maine. I've always wanted to be from Maine. I hear it's pretty. Who are you today? Are you somebody? I guess I'm just myself. Are you Sally for today, or are you always Sally? Well, I'm Sally for now. How about that? Cool! Weird, Alicia thought. Here I am, playing a role, but so is everybody else. Oh, dear Lord. I'm going to need you. Chapter 5. What's yours is mine. A little before noon, the Dartmoor Hotel had an unexpected visitor. He came through the front door, walking slowly to the reception desk. Good morning. All the rooms are full. You sure? I've come a long way. This place is nice and close to where I have to do my business. I'm sorry. Try up the street, the Sullivan or the Royal Arms. The visitor looked around. So, do you rent rooms by the week? Or the month? You got apartments up there? Without warning, he pressed the button for the elevator. Hey, you can't go up there! The door to the old elevator slid open. I might be interested in an apartment. Why don't you show me one? We're in the middle of a renovation. There's nothing to see up there. The visitor stood still and let the elevator door slide shut again. Oh, that's too bad. Well, I'll try the Sullivan. Thanks anyway. He walked toward the door, but turned right to have a look at the empty room through the archway. Satisfied, he gave a detached shrug and went out the door. He walked casually up the street, whistling to himself, his briefcase swinging at his side, and then turned into an alley where a large van was waiting. He hopped in, and the van rolled down the alley. Sarah was behind the wheel. Perfect. I think we got it all. Nate was in back, manning all the electronic surveillance gear. Thanks, Charlie. He began tapping away at the computer, isolating certain sounds from a recording they'd just made. I'll just stack all these sounds in a file and pull up our other file and compare the two. I think we're going to find what we were expecting. He played the first recording, and they heard the sound of a latch opening, the squeak of hinges, the quiet rush of a door moving across a carpet. That's you, Charlie, going in the front door. Next they heard the very same sounds repeated. Nate sat up straight. That was the kids going through the same door last night. Let's check the next one. A series of wooden squeaks, then another. The second recording involved more feet, but the squeaks were virtually the same. Same floor. Last night and today. A rumble. The ding of a bell. A door sliding open. The same sounds again. Same elevator, said Sarah. Yeah, same wave structure. And look here. He pointed at a little spike that appeared in both sound waves. The floor makes that same squeak right as you go into the archway. So guess what, Sarah? He spun in his chair to look at her. We're not crazy. Sarah shook her head. Incredible. Charlie nodded toward the outside. So, how about a bite to eat? It's about that time. They climbed out of the van, stepping into a narrow alley and up to a plain little door with a neatly worded sign. Living Way Youth Shelter. Everyone welcome. Charlie led them into a dining hall where nearly a dozen kids were starting their lunch. Anita, Charlie's wife, was just getting the kids' attention. Okay, put the spoons down. We're going to pray. Dear Lord, We thank you for this food and for this home. Please warm our hearts as we feed our bodies. Amen. The kids started slurping their soup and passing the bread. Nate, Sarah, and Charlie found a table over in the corner where they could talk. Charlie Ramirez and his wife Anita started the Living Way shelter 6 years ago as a ministry to runaways. Abused kids, wayward kids, rebellious kids, kids with nowhere else to go. I've never heard any of the kids talk about another youth shelter in town, Charlie said. I never had any idea. Could you start asking around? Asked Sarah. The way these kids circulate on the street, somebody had to have heard something. And ask them if they've ever encountered a woman named Margaret Jones, or if anyone's ever heard of the Nightmare Academy. We heard Elijah and Elisha talking about it, but we're not sure of the correct spelling. This Margaret Jones woman showed the kids a brochure. We need to get our hands on it. Charlie was making a list. Dear Jesus, help us. When Elijah showed up for the discussion circle with Mr. Easley at 1:30, he looked sharp. His uniform, interestingly, fit him perfectly. It made him wonder, how did these people know my exact measurements? Did they come into the room with a tape measure while I was asleep? Ugh. What a creepy thought. Mr. Easley smiled at him. Hey, what's your name today? Oh, Jerry. Sorry I'm late. Hey, there's no such thing as being late to discussion circle. Everybody comes when they feel like it. You do what you feel. Have a seat somewhere, wherever you want. Oh, and Jerry. Elijah stopped, and Mr. Easley tossed him a KM dollar. That's for showing up. He quickly scanned the group and found Elisha with a blonde friend under an ancient cottonwood. He settled on the grass near her, but not right next to her, catching a welcome from her eyes. Take off your tie if you want, said Easley. I know the academy has a rule about wearing uniforms, but as I've told the others, what are we really trying to do here? We want everyone to have their own life. If you have to wear a uniform all the time, then you're just being squished into the same mold as everybody else, and we don't want that, right? Right. Now, what were we talking about? Whatever we wanted, said a tough-looking street dude who'd rolled up his sleeves to show off his tattoos. That's the stuff, Ramon. Easley tossed Ramon another KM. We were talking about possessions. And stealing, said a purple-haired scarecrow of a girl. Somebody stole my Walkman, and I don't appreciate it one bit. Was it really yours? Of course it was mine. So you paid for it, or someone gave it to you? Now the girl shrank a bit. No, I found it. Easley held up his hands. Come on. Let's not get into either or here. Maybe both Charlene and Melinda are right. Maybe the real problem is private possessions. Charlene believes that all the world is community property and everybody owns it, right? Charlene gave her gum a few thoughtful chomps and then flipped some purple hair out of her eyes. Yeah. Sounds good. Then Melinda turned on her. Yeah, so how would you like it if somebody ripped off your stuff? Oh. Easley tossed both girls a coin and then held up a hand to calm things down. Okay, now, Melinda's asked the big question. How would I like it? Well, that's up to each of us, isn't it? Melinda, did it ever occur to you that perhaps you're being too selfish with things? You think it's fair for you to have a Walkman when somebody else doesn't? Look at it this way. You're actually sharing. You just don't know it. I think that's the whole point here. If nobody owns anything, then how can anybody steal it? Melinda looked around the group, still angry and suspicious. Well, if that's the way you want to say it, then whoever's sharing my Walkman, I'd like it if you'd share it back again. All right, said Mr. Easley. See, both Melinda and Charlene are right. Elijah chuckled and muttered to himself. Either or. Easley heard him. What was that, Jerry? Well, you're trying to tell us that both Melinda and Charlene are right, but that was never the case. All you did was argue with Melinda to get her to change her mind. So that means either she saw stealing as sharing, or she was selfish. It wasn't a both and. It was an either or. Now a few oh-hos arose, and Elijah even heard one fellow say, He's got you there. But now Elisha's mental stew was about to boil over. She jumped in, and I'm not even sure she's changed her mind, and I don't think she should change her mind. Sure, it's good to share, and which shouldn't be selfish, but calling stealing sharing doesn't make it sharing. It's still stealing. And stealing's wrong, and if Melinda stole that Walkman, she was ripping somebody off, and whoever took her Walkman without her permission was ripping her off. Easley just smiled. Sally, you're new here, so it'll take some time for you to catch up. I think all of us have been raised with certain ideas of right and wrong. But now we can build our own world right here and create a new truth. Elisha was on a roll. A new truth? Like what? He smiled, pleased at the thought. Whatever we agree on. You see, right and wrong are what we choose to make them. Elijah piped up. He couldn't help it. Is that statement you just made right or wrong? Easley didn't appreciate the question. It depends on what the group thinks. So now it's what the group thinks? What if the group decides you're wrong? Would you still be right? Well, I can still have any truth I want in my own mind, so you can have it both ways at the same time. Exactly. Both and. Both Melinda and the group are right. That's madness, said Elisha. You can't have it both ways. Sure you can. Both and, said Easley with a shrug and a smile. Some in the group laughed. Some moaned. No. I'll tell you why. Some of us feel it just might be worthwhile to help the next generation rise above their petty differences and live in peace and brotherhood. That's what this academy is all about, Jerry and Sally. Peace, unity, brotherhood. And I believe we can do it. We need to keep getting better, and then get still better, and then better than that, until we finally get there and we have one big peaceful world we can all be proud of. And all you two are doing is destroying the very things we're about, bringing division, factions, squabbles over words. It was a stirring speech, and Elijah and Elisha could feel the winds of opinion aligning in Easley's favor. Every other boy and girl eyed them, seeing them as Easley did, as objects of shame and scorn. Easley's voice softened. I think you need to examine your hearts, as all of us are doing every day, and ask yourselves, what do I really want? To win an argument or win a friend? To stir up strife or live in peace? To create factions or knit together a human family? I think it's been a good session. We've been challenged and given a lot to think about. That's it for the day. Try sharing something. See how it feels. Then Easley headed back across the field. A silence hung over the group like a cold fog. The kids watched Easley for a long, pondering moment before they could finally meet each other's eyes. Melinda turned to Charlene. You can share my Walkman. She nodded and said, so can you. They all rose from the grass, picking up ties, shoes, and blazers, and having quiet, peacemaking conversations as they walked away. No one said a word to Elijah or Elisha. Elisha could see warning signs in her brother's face and hurried over to touch his arm. Let it go, let it go. We don't need any more attention. He took a deep breath, calmed himself, and nodded. Nate and Sarah were busily at work in the back of their van, compiling a database, bit by bit. Nate was getting nowhere quick on his computer. The first place Alvin Rogers shows up as a matter of record is with the Kootenai Medical Center in Coeur d'Alene right before he was transferred to Harborview. So we do have him popping up in Idaho, but that's all. There was a loud rap on the passenger door up front, and then it opened. It was Charlie. Nate and Sarah, we've found somebody. They followed Charlie into the dining hall where they met Tyler, an older teen, 19 to be exact. His life was much more put together since Charlie and Anita had taken him in 3 years ago. Charlie explained, we were talking about things, how it's going, what are his plans, and then I asked him about this Nightmore Academy thing. And hey, Tyler, tell Nate and Sarah about that lady you met. Her name wasn't Margaret Jones. It was Suzanne Dorning, and she met me on the street down in Phoenix. Phoenix, exclaimed Sarah. She's been around, if it's the same woman. She invited me to get on a bus and head out for a summer academy where I could earn some high school credits and meet other kids from all over the country. She made it sound great, but I told her no. Something that sounded that good couldn't be on the up and up. Don't suppose you can describe her? Nate asked. It was 3 years ago. Don't remember that much. She was kind of a redhead, I think. She was kind of young, pretty. How do you even remember her name after so long? Tyler reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a wrinkled scrap of paper. She wrote it on the back of the brochure. Nate and Sarah thought their hearts would stop as Tyler slid it across the table. I stuffed it in my backpack and just left it there. When Charlie asked me about it, I remembered seeing something about an academy, and we dug it out. Same old backpack. Charlie wheezed with laughter. Does God answer prayer or what? The brochure was in color. The front read, Nightmore Academy. Inside were photographs of a campus in a forested setting, classrooms full of bright, cheery students, and catchy claims. Get a head start on your educational future. Learn as you've never learned before. We don't just teach history, we make history. On the back was Suzanne Dorning's phone number and the address of the academy. Let's call the number. I already did. It's disconnected, no longer in service. But we have an address, said Sarah. It wasn't much, just the name of the academy, followed by Borland, Colorado. I wonder if Borland, Colorado is still. Chapter 6, Rules and Power. How are you feeling? Elijah asked. I think I'm finally awake, Elisha answered. Do you remember the bus ride? No, neither do I. I think there was something in that soup we ate. Elijah, this place is a fantasy land. Everybody's pretending. There's a weird mind game going on here. Tell me about it. Do you still have your radio? Yeah, I have mine too, but the headphones are gone. Better keep a close eye on your stuff, what there is of it. Uh-huh. Let's call Mom and Dad every night, and whether they can hear us or not, whether we can hear from them or not. Let's trade off each night to save batteries. Okay. Elisha checked her watch. Oh, we better get to class. Marcy says Mr. Booker is really strict. Mr. Booker's reading and English class convened in a neat, well-ordered classroom. Students hurriedly took their seats. They were talking, but not loudly, and every tie, every blazer, every shoe was present and in place. Elijah found an empty desk about halfway back and settled in. Elisha found a desk in the front row. Hey, Sally, right? A young man with bristly black hair and holes in his face where rings and studs used to be was smiling at her. That's right. And you are? Tom Cruise. She gave him a careful second look. You're Tom Cruise? He gave her a Tom Cruise smile. Pretty impressive, huh? I'm speechless. Yeah, just wanted to introduce myself. He was interrupted by a rather rude backhand to his arm. A guy named Alex, with tie straight and every wavy blonde hair in place, was towering over him with a mean gleam in his eye. You're sitting in my desk, bub. Mr. Cruise gathered his books and went elsewhere. Alex sank into the desk, very proud of himself. Elisha was hoping there was a mistake. That's your desk? If he can be Tom Cruise, this can be my desk. Call it like you want it. Suddenly, a loud, clear, booming voice at the back door startled everyone. Alex, I believe you're sitting in a desk reserved for Mr. Cruise. Hard heels came marching up the aisle as Elisha looked to see. Eyes forward, young lady! She turned forward and froze. Mr. Booker, in burgundy suit, a thick novel under his arm, strode mightily to the front of the class. There was nothing weak about him. The way he walked and glared, this guy was scary. He directed full attention on Alex. You will return to your own desk. Now. This is my desk, Mr. Booker. Sir. How? By right of conquest? I'm sharing it. So that's your truth for today, is it? Hey, that's how things work around here. Just playing both and, I guess. You've been listening to Easley. Alex just smirked, gave his head a playful, confident little wiggle, until Mr. Booker grabbed a fistful of Alex's perfectly combed hair and slammed his head down on the desk. The sound of Alex's skull smacking into the wood made everyone jump. Mr. Easley failed to include a vital part of the equation, Mr. Booker growled in Alex's ear as Alex struggled and winced. His face beat red. Power, Alex. Power. Something I have, and you don't. Everyone watched, their hearts pounding, some trembling, as Mr. Booker yanked Alex out of his desk and propelled him down the aisle to a desk halfway back. He didn't wait for Alex to sit there. He put him there. And then he barked at Tom Cruise, who'd found an empty desk near the back. Mr. Cruise, you will take your assigned seat, please. Mr. Cruise leaped, ran, planted his hindquarters in that desk, then sat at attention. Booker put out his palm toward Alex. Your tokens. All of them. Alex, his face red, his eye tearing from being smacked on the desk, hair still disheveled, dug into his blazer pocket and produced a handful of KM dollars. With resentment, he dropped them into Booker's palm. Mr. Booker then returned to the front of the classroom. Mr. Cruz, I believe these belong to you. He gave the tokens to Mr. Cruz, then turned, rested against his desk, and surveyed the class, meeting every eye. His fiery eye fell upon Elisha. And this is the new student, I presume. Answer me. Yes, sir. I'm calling myself Sally. Took a moment to chuckle at that. Sally. A nice choice. Are you a movie star? A rock star? No, I'm just Sally. First of all, thank you for wearing proper attire. He dug a KM dollar from his pocket and set it on her desk. Now, Sally, since you seem to be such a center of attention, would you please stand and recite? Excuse me? Stand and recite. Sir, with all due respect, I just got here. This is my very first day. Sally, I am hearing an excuse. You know my policy regarding excuses. No, sir, I'm sorry. I don't know any of your policies because I've never been here before. Booker crossed his arms. And how would I know that? She could come up with only one answer. Have you ever seen me before? He nodded confidently. Every day. I'm in Fantasyland again, she thought, then said, That's impossible. Elisha could sense the silent gasp from the rest of the class. Booker approached her desk, his eyes threatening. He took back the KM dollar. You have contradicted me. You do realize that? Mr. Booker, it would be contradictory for me to say that I've always been here when I've been somewhere else. And now you're telling me what to think? I'm just telling you the truth. Your idea of truth, you mean. But you forget, child, that I might see things another way. His hand went to his desk. His fingers curled around a yardstick. I might prefer to believe that you have always been here, that you knew good and well what the assignment was, and that you are trying to challenge my authority. He brought the yardstick around. You will stand, and you will recite. He raised the yardstick, ready to bring it down on her shoulders. You will stand, or I'll recite! Elijah jumped to his feet so fast his desk dumped over with a horrible clatter. Head spun around. Eyes, wide, intense eyes, locked on him. Time froze. Still holding the yardstick, Booker stood motionless like a still photograph from a scary movie and glared at Elijah. He turned and walked down the aisle, his heels loudly marking each step on the hard maple floor. I did not call on you. Elijah looked past Booker and saw the frightened face of his sister. I'll recite anything you want, anything you want if I know it, and if I don't know it, you can go ahead and hit me. Booker was impressed. He stole a glance at Elisha. You have quite the power to charm, young lady. Then he looked at Elijah and cradled the yardstick in both hands, clearly relishing the thought. Very well. Recite, but I warn you, try your very best to please me. Exodus, chapter 20. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make unto thee any graven image, or any likeness of anything that is in the heavens above, or in the earth beneath, or in the waters under the earth. You shall not... The audacity! Booker growled and raised the yardstick. A loud scraping of a desk across the floor. Elisha was on her feet, calling out, You shall not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Now in front and behind Booker they spoke in chorus. Honor your father and your mother, that your days may be prolonged. You shall not steal. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. Rubbish! Booker roared, looking from one to the other. There was silence. Do you want us to keep going? Elijah asked. No! Booker studied both of them, looking back and forth. That will be quite enough. Please be seated, and I commend you for a remarkable demonstration. Thank you. Of rubbish. Pure rubbish. Booker tossed the yardstick on his desk and addressed the class. Did you notice? Once again we find ourselves having to confront the same old idea that somehow, as if from heaven above, there is truth, there is right, there is wrong. He looked angrily at Elijah and Elisha. Once again, we have to endure someone putting forth definitive statements of truth. As you have just done, sir, Elijah replied, writing his desk. Oh, yes. You're one of those either-or thinkers, aren't you? Either my truth or yours. Well, I say your truth is rubbish. He laughed, basking in victory. Rubbish. Warren, a quiet but strong young man with reddish hair and freckles, approached Elisha and Elijah on the sidewalk. I just want to tell you, you've got nerve, man. I couldn't have faced down Booker like that. Ramon agreed. You're one bad dude, Jerry. Marcy was crying a little. I felt so awful for you. Elisha held Marcy close to comfort her. It's all right. We just need to learn the ropes, that's all. Tomorrow will go more smoothly. Hey, what was that? Asked Ramon. The Ten Commandments? How come you both know the same thing? Asked Warren. Elijah shrugged. Doesn't everybody? I've seen the movie, Warren offered. Hey, said Ramon, there goes Booker now. They all followed his gaze. Mr. Booker, with several teachers and staff, was walking toward the big iron gate that separated the campus from the mansion up in the trees. Booker entered a code in the lock, and the big gate swung open automatically. As soon as they had all passed through, it swung shut again. Just like prison bars, said Elisha. I wouldn't mind a closer look at that place, said Elijah. Oh, don't even think about it, said Warren. Somebody already tried sneaking in there, and we haven't seen him since. You mean one of the kids? Like us? Elisha asked. Yeah. Just stay away from there. Don't worry about it. But what do they do in there? Elijah asked. It's Academy headquarters. Offices and stuff. It's private. That's all. Come on. Let's grab something to eat and then let's rock out. The rec center was a huge pavilion wholly devoted to games, amusement, distraction, and sensory overload, and the doors opened at 6 o'clock every night. The video arcade rivaled anything the kids might find in the big city, with row upon row of roaring, thumping, off-road racing, downhill skiing, bad guys shooting, alien blasting, fighter jet flying, body-bashing machines, flashing, beeping, blurping, exploding, a hot-buttered carnival of glittering lights in the semi-darkness. Everything that met the eye was overstated, from the comic art and blaring movie posters on the walls to the green, purple, red, and blue neon logos. Elijah and Elisha decided to split up and mingle, carrying on semi-shouted conversations with anyone who was talkative. The mansion? That's where all the bigwigs live, a lanky pool shark named Andy told Elijah. Some kids are saying weird stuff about it, but don't believe everything you hear. Marcy introduced Elisha to Brittany and Madonna. You ask me, that mansion's haunted, said Madonna, leaning on the pop machine as she checked out the boys in the room. I wouldn't go up there, said Brittany. One night we heard somebody screaming. I'm not joking. You don't know what Booker and Bingham might be doing up there. Did one kid really go up there? Elisha asked. Yeah, first night we were all here. Some kind of dare, I think. What happened to him? He tried to climb over the wall, and he fell inside. And then he screamed, and now he's gone. That's all I know. Brittany caught a glance from Madonna. Well, it isn't true anymore. I mean, it happened, but now it didn't. Hey, the Booker game's open. Want to play? Madonna asked. Sure, said Elisha. What's the object?
Whoa,
What's the object?
What's the object? What's the object?
He got in trouble, said Eric, a wiry little guy shooting alien spacecraft out of the sky. He got in a fight, so Booker and Stern took him up to the mansion, and I guess he got sent home because we never saw him again. Of course, you got to remember, that's just my truth. That's the way I saw it. Did you know this guy? Can't say I know anything. I don't know his name. Don't know if he even existed. But if he did, I think he was a friend of Alex. Elisha was just starting to win at the Booger game when someone nudged up close behind her and asked, How's it going? It was Alex. Marcy, Brittany, and Madonna turned all giggles. All right, I guess, Elisha answered, tapping away at the control buttons, all the more motivated to concentrate on the game. Hey, don't worry about what happened today with Booker, he said. We're going to even things up. Just you watch. Elisha, investigating, asked, And just what did you have in mind? He put his big hands on her shoulders and whispered something in her ear. The Booger game began to flash. In only seconds, Elisha lost all her Kleenex points, and the game ended in a giant green explosion. Oh, too bad. Chapter 7, Dorm Raids. Elisha reached under her bed and took her radio from its hiding place in the bed spring. Just talking to Mom and Dad brought a wave of deep longing. Mom and Dad, in case you're within range of this radio, hi. I miss you. Elijah and I are okay. We've found the Nightmare Academy, and from what we've seen, there's no doubt that Alvin Rogers was here, and I think we found part of the answer to what happened to him. Then Elisha heard noise, a yelling, banging, commotion. She jumped out of bed when she heard a long, loud squeal and footsteps coming down the hall. Bam! The door opened. It was Marcy, her face red, panting, shrieking and giggling. It's a raid! She slammed the door shut, grabbed a chair to prop against it. Who is it? Alex and all the boys! They're raiding the boys' dorm! Elisha was reviewing in her mind the building exits and the escape routes. We may have to get out of here. Elijah figured, with everybody having such a good time, I'll never get another opportunity like this one. He stole through the darkness, then climbed up the hill, keeping the lights of the mansion off his left shoulder, trying to circle the wall until he found something. Then he saw something, very vague in the dark. He paused a moment to study it, but then he heard something, a low, close to the ground snuffing, then a snorting. He quit breathing, and he heard it again. Some bushes rustled, some twigs snapped, whatever it was. It sounded big. Bears are usually afraid of people, so Elijah tried hollering, "Yeah! Go on! Get out of here!" A deep growl filled the forest. Guess this one isn't afraid. When a huge furry form came charging his way, he ran for all he was worth, widening the trail he'd made, coming up, breaking out of the woods and into the field with a clear, new insight. Okay, one thing is true around here. Outside the dorm window, the rioting shadows began to retreat into the dark. "Is it over?" Marcy asked. "Looks like it," said Elisha. "That was scary. Has this happened before?" "No, not like this. What if they'd come in here? They wouldn't have done anything, would they?" Elisha looked out the window, still afraid she might see shadows lingering and sneaking about. When there's no right or wrong, why shouldn't they do something if they feel like it? Nate and Sarah rented a high-performance, single-engine airplane and flew themselves to Borland, Colorado. Joe Pike, owner of a local hunting and fishing resort, met them at the airstrip in his SUV. "I've been checking around," he said as he loaded their gear into the back of his rig. "A lot of people remember the government having some kind of camp way up in Cougar Gulch, but that was a few years ago." "We need to see that camp," said Sarah. An hour later, Pike eased to a stop at the end of an obscure, seldom-used access road. "This way." They followed him over a berm of earth that blocked the road and into an open meadow where all the trees were young, only a few feet tall. "This is it." Nate walked several yards into the meadow, looking about. "There used to be a campus here? A whole academy?" Sarah took out the brochure they'd gotten from Tyler and compared the photograph on the front with the terrain she was seeing now. In the photo, behind a large hall, was the very same rocky outcropping and steep-sided valley she was seeing right now from where she stood. "What happened to it? Couldn't have just rotted away in so short a time." "Oh, near as anyone can tell, the government came in and tore it all down. Then they replanted the area, and they did it quick. If you hadn't lived and hunted here and seen it for yourself, you'd never know there was such a thing." Steve Mackelberg, the owner of the local filling station, shed a little more light on it. "Yeah, we saw the big yellow buses go by, full of kids, then 2 weeks later we saw them all go by again, heading home. You ought to talk to Vicki Johnson, the hairdresser. She and Gus worked up there." Vicki Johnson talked while she cut a customer's hair in her one-chair beauty shop. "My husband and I got on as assistant caretakers. And then they said thank you and they ran us out of there. We got our paychecks, we put a new roof on the house. The next thing we knew, the academy wasn't there anymore. Your tax dollars at work." "Where did the kids come from?" Sarah asked. "Oh, all over the country. The academy recruited kids in the high schools." Any particular schools?" Oh, you'd have to talk to, what was her name anyway? She was the recruiter in charge of getting kids signed up." Sarah looked at the back of the brochure again. "Suzanne Dorning?" No. It was something like Katie or Kathy. With her scissors, she pointed out one of the snapshots taped to the walls. "That's her right there, standing between me and Gus." Sarah and Nate took a close look. There was a cute red-haired lady proudly holding up an impressive trout. "We enjoyed Kathy, that was her name." Sarah gave Nate another second to study the photo and then looked at him. "That's her. That's Margaret Jones." It had been one very tense day. All the darkness and all the stealth of the previous nights didn't keep everyone in Dorm D from knowing exactly who raided them, whose idea it was, and exactly what was taken. The word sharing was floating around like the punchline of a joke. That evening, the music was playing as loud as ever in the recreation center, but only half the video games were roaring and the pool table was deserted. Most of the kids didn't want to leave their rooms for fear that what little possessions they did have would not be there when they returned. The talk had gotten around, and everyone expected trouble. It came. Elijah heard a loud rapping on his window. "Elijah! Elijah!" It was his sister. He cracked the window open. "What are you doing here? You're going to be raided." Elijah heard a terrible crash at the end of the hall. "I think they've arrived." He could already hear a terrible tumult in the hallway. He quickly stepped outside his door, closed it behind him, and stood there overwhelmed. There were no fun and games out here. A mob of guys 24 strong were muscling their way into the rooms, getting shoved back by the occupants. 2 guys trying to push their way into room 13 were rammed backward by a chair in their gut. Alex was in the hall, taking on all comers with what appeared to be a chair leg. By now there seemed to be 5 all-out fistfights going on. 3 of Elijah's neighbors were now in the hallway, visibly frightened as they stood near their doors watching a wave of violence come their way. Elijah knew what to do in their case. He spread his arms toward them like a cop doing crowd control. "Guys, get out of here. It isn't worth it." Warren, Elijah's neighbor, was angry and stood his ground. "They're not taking my stuff." Elijah turned just in time to see 3 guys coming their way, ready to challenge that. Warren, it isn't worth it." It took only microseconds for Elijah to think it through. 3 against 1. If Warren runs, they'll chase him and they'll get what they want. 3 against 2? Well, at least the odds were better. "It's worth it," he concluded, and stepped into their path.
For more of Frank Peretti's Nightmare Academy, go to CD2.
Chapter 8, Crusades and Inquisitions. Dorm A had become a battleground, just like Dorm B, only a few octaves higher. Everything was flying everywhere, including the frequent flash of pilfered KMs. There were slap clashes, tugs of war, shrieks, cursing, screams, and threats. Girls were scratching, biting, kicking, pulling hair. Elisha went into the melee only deep enough to grab a fistful of Marcy's blouse and yank her out the door. "How dare you! Are you out of your mind?" Marcy was indignant over the interruption. "What's your problem?" "What's my problem?" Elisha wanted to slap her. "Kids got hurt last night, and they're getting hurt tonight. Stealing and wrecking things and finding it's wrong." "No, it isn't. We're just getting back at them." Melinda came running out the door with a brand new Walkman in her hand. "Hey, Cher, you're missing out." Again, Elisha was incredulous. "Melinda, what are you doing? You can't take that." "Sure I can. I want it." "Melinda, aren't you the one who was all upset because somebody stole your Walkman? Don't you remember how it felt to be ripped off?" "I feel good now. It isn't wrong if we're having fun. Come on, Cher." "Cher?" Elisha questioned. "I got tired of Marcy," said Elisha's roommate as Melinda pulled her back inside. "Had enough?" Elijah stretched out his hand as a token of friendship. The big guy's back pain and abdominal discomfort gave way to embarrassment and wonder. He remembered grabbing Elijah with every intention of putting his head through the plaster, but whatever happened between that moment and the moment his own body slammed into the floor was a stomach-turning blur. "What's your name?" Elijah asked. "Rory." "I'm calling myself Jerry. This here is Warren." Elijah was still offering his hand. Rory took it, and Elijah helped him to his feet. "You're good," Rory said, rubbing his bruised shoulder. "You're pretty good yourself," said Elijah. The big raid was over. Brett and his whole gang had done enough damage and received plenty, and now they were gone. Alex and the men of Dorm B were picking themselves up, gathering up their scattered belongings and counting what items weren't there anymore. Overall, the mood was sour. At the next day's discussion circle, Mr. Easley kept wearing his smile as he addressed a group of scowling, bruised, and scratched students. The whole group was divided, the A and B dorms on Easley's left, and the C and D dorms on his right, and sitting prominently on each side, eyeing each other like 2 roosters in the same chicken yard, were Alex and Brett. You could feel the tension. "We're actually getting better and better," said Easley. "Did you know that?" As we keep evolving our capacity for good from generation to generation, we need to pitch in for peace. Elijah raised a hand. Why? What's wrong with war? War is exactly what we're trying to avoid. And Jerry, I don't appreciate your even bringing up the subject. I didn't bring it up. It's right in our faces, and I think you should deal with it. Elijah was running out of patience and getting visibly angry. I want you to tell us that fighting and stealing are wrong. Can you do that? Easley looked across the group. What does the group think? Bring it on, said Alex, hitting his palm with his fist. Oh, yeah, said Brett. Except for one thing, said Easley, addressing all of them. Respect. Alex thought that was funny. Respect! Respect! Listen, our world is full of different cultures, different views of right and wrong, and we're seeing an example of that right here. But we don't have to agree with anyone else's idea of right and wrong as long as we simply respect each other. Elisha piped up, Mr. Easley, in some cultures they love their neighbor. In some cultures they eat their neighbor. Which do you respect? I respect them both. You can't have it both ways, Elisha said, actually scolding him. If you respect my neighbor's right to invade my room and take my things, then you sure don't respect my right to peace and safety. Either or, said Elijah. Easley came back. Every person has a right. No, said Elisha. No one has the right to do something that's wrong. Easley leaned toward her. And I suppose you're going to tell us what's right and wrong. I don't decide what's right and what's wrong. God decides. Moans and hoots came from the crowd. Elisha pressed on, completing her thought for the whole group. Remember the 10 Commandments? Well, there are 2 more we didn't get to recite in Booker's class. Don't lie, and don't want something that belongs to someone else. I think those 2 commandments would solve a lot of the problems around here. Easley leaned back, glad Elisha had brought up God. Ah, God. Holier than thou. Thou shalt not. Just impose your religion on everyone so they can't think for themselves. Is that how it works? It isn't like that. God gave us, set yourself up as the one who makes all the rules and tell everybody they have to see things your way because you have God in your camp. Now you have all the rights. The right to criticize and persecute and condemn. And why not lead a few more crusades and inquisitions while you're at it? He twisted everything we said, Elisha lamented as she and Elijah walked across the field together. And now we're the intolerant bigots and know-it-alls. Elijah, we're losing what friends we may have had, and I don't know what's going to keep these kids from doing something worse. A voice called from behind them. Hey, Jerry! Uh-oh. It was Rory, the big guy from last night. Oh, please, Lord, don't let him be looking for a fight. Rory didn't stop to talk. He just passed by as he handed Elijah a note. Somebody wants to talk to you. He kept going without looking back. Elijah read the note. It's from Mr. Booker. Come in. Elijah opened the door and stepped into a small tool room. Mr. Booker was standing there, an elbow on the workbench, looking at him. Come in, Jerry, and close the door. Why am I here, Mr. Booker? No need for concern, Jerry. This meeting is off the record and totally non-threatening, I assure you. So you've gotten to know Rory? Not the way I'd like to. Well, it was Rory who recommended you. He was very impressed with your martial arts skills last night. Recommended me for what? You've seen it. Things are getting out of hand. The raids, the violence, the looting. Jerry, when any society is threatened with disorder, firm measures must be taken. The evil has to be contained. I thought you didn't believe in evil. Just a convenient term I use for disruptive, undesirable behavior. When people can't be trusted to control their behavior, then someone else has to do the controlling. That's what police departments are for. I am in need of policemen. So you want me to be a cop? Mm-hmm. And an informant? Booker agreed with a nod. He reached into his blazer, pulled out 2 $20 bills, and laid them on the workbench. Would it be worth perhaps $40? 40 real dollars per day, plus a pipeline to all the KMs you might need. I can also see to it that other privileges make themselves available. And who would I be working for? You? For me, and indirectly, the Academy. You won't be alone. I've already hired some others in the student body. Rory is one of them. To be what? Hired thugs? It's not so sinister. But think of the advantages. No more terrible disruptions, no more lootings, no more injuries, and the advantage for you personally, which is you would be connected with someone in power. I can change the game to your advantage. You've seen me and the others pass through that gate every evening. Inside that gate is where the power is. You're really scary, you know that? Fear works, especially if you have spies and headbreakers working for you. A good general must have an army. But if you don't believe in truth, or right and wrong, then who's going to contain you? Elijah put his hand on the doorknob. $80 a day. Booker dug out 2 more 20s. Mr. Booker, it's like you and I are from different planets. For you, it's all power and money. For me, it's God and truth. I could never work for you. But thanks for your consideration. He politely closed the door after him. Bam! The door burst open right at the top of the hour, and Booker entered the room. All eyes went forward. The sudden hush announced him as loudly as any trumpet fanfare. His eyes were doing a slow sweep of the class, ray-gunning every kid, one at a time. Elijah could see most of the class from where he sat and knew what Mr. Booker was noticing. Oh boy, here it comes. After a long, chilling moment, Booker announced, "You have made a very grave mistake." Heads pivoted. Guilt was everywhere. "Tanya, where is your white blouse?" Tanya was wearing a ragged denim shirt under her burgundy blazer. "Stolen, sir." "Samuel, your white shirt and your tie?" "Stolen." "Stolen, sir." "Sir." "Marvin, you aren't even wearing your shoes." I can't find them, sir." Booker scanned the room one more time. Out of 20-plus students, only 6 or 7 had a complete uniform. The rest were wearing whatever pieces they had left, horribly mismatched with street clothes. "Where is Alex?" There was no answer. Then Brett spoke up. "Sir, Alex said he was going to get some sleep. He said he needed sleep more than he needed your class." Booker leaned back against his desk, sufficiently theatrically offended. "Rory, Tom, Jamal, Clay, bring Alex here, place him in his desk, and make sure he stays there, and make sure he brings all his KMs with him." 4 big guys rose from their desks. Elijah guessed. Each had had his own little meeting with Booker in the tool room, and now Booker was changing the game to their advantage. Booker went on with business. "Tanya, you will be fined 5 KMs as of right now." She was devastated. "But now!" She dug in her pocket and produced 5 coins. "It's not my fault." "I heard an excuse. 2 more. Samuel, 5 KMs for the missing shirt." This was Booker's way. He seemed to enjoy punishing people as much as teaching them. The KMs jingled into Booker's wooden penalty bowl like doubloons into a pirate's treasure chest. "You will replace whatever you are missing by purchasing it at the campus exchange using your KMs. If you have no KMs, the cafeteria will issue a 10 KM credit for skipping a meal. You will abandon all thoughts of protest or appealing to fairness. I require uniforms, and I exact penalties because I rule your lives. Period. Are there any questions?" The room was silent. Of course not. Then Rory, Tom, Jamal, and Clay returned, bursting through the door with Alex walking, sometimes, between them. Bruises on his face and blood on his forearm. He wasn't dressed for class. He was hardly dressed at all. The 4 big bruisers dropped him in his desk and then stood there defying him to get up. He sat there glowering and huffing through clenched teeth, holding the wound on his arm. Booker extended his open palm as Rory tossed him Alex's bag of KMs. The bag was full and heavy, landing in Booker's hand with an audible chink. "You will never avoid my class again. Ever." Alex's voice was hissing with anger. "Who are you to tell me what to do? Are you blind?" Booker's voice was so loud, so intimidating that everyone in the room flinched. "You have just experienced the answer to your question, Alex. How many different ways must I demonstrate it?" Booker tossed the bag of KMs back to Rory. "Divide it amongst yourselves." A chuckle from across the room turned Alex's head. It was Brett, smiling. gloating, in full uniform, nice and neat, enjoying every moment. He even produced an extra tie from his pocket. Missing something? You think it's over? Brett just wagged his head slowly. He knew where Alex was going. You and me, said Alex. Anytime, anywhere, said Brett. Booker stood there listening and observing. We appear to have some ongoing, irresolvable issues here. Just then the door opened and Mr. Easley stuck his head in. Excuse me, Mr. Booker, don't mean to interrupt. I was just wondering. Booker was jubilant. Mr. Easley, just the man we need. He indicated the two seething combatants. We have two kings here, two nations at war. Perhaps you can help them resolve their differences without killing each other. You may as well take them all off my hands, Mr. Easley. They're useless to me today. Easley took charge. Okay, everyone, gather outside on the 50-yard line. Form a wide circle and wait till I get there. Brett, you better swing by your room and get out of that suit. Let's go! The class rose hurriedly to their feet. Chapter 9, The Student King. They moved into the field, scattered clusters of concern and anticipation. What's happening? They're gonna fight? You think Brett can take this guy?
You're the man, Alex.
Does this mean we get our stuff back? Where do we go?
The football field, 50-yard line.
Mr. Easley arrived, carrying 2 pairs of boxing gloves. He handed 1 pair to Alex, 1 pair to Brett.
Okay, everybody, listen up, said Easley, standing in the center of the circle. This is one way we keep getting better and better. After today, we're all going to see things differently. We're going to have peace. So keep that in mind during this process. He stepped back. Okay, let's go. Alex and Brett approached each other, gloves raised, circling, eyes mean. Alex threw the first punch, and it landed squarely in Brett's face. He stumbled backward. Brett stepped in again, got punched again, but landed one himself. They went toe-to-toe. No strategy, no skill, just a brawl. Alex connected with Brett's face again, then sent a haymaker into Brett's stomach. Brett doubled over, lost his balance, and fell. Alex was simply a better fighter. Brett went down again, this time with a nosebleed. Easley stepped up with a suggestion. Brett, what about all the stuff you took from Dorm B? Maybe you could reach an agreement of some kind.
What about all the stuff they took? Easley looked to Alex for a reply. Alex just smirked.
You want it? Come and get it.
Easley stepped back and let Brett charge. Brett did land a few punches, mainly to Alex's body, mainly because Alex let him. Then Alex chose his moment and hammered Brett's head with a volley of punches, sending him to the ground a bleeding, dazed mess. Easley approached Alex this time.
Alex, perhaps you'd like to offer some terms of surrender.
Alex approached Brett, standing over him like a conqueror.
You give us back all of our stuff, starting with my tie. You can make it work both ways, Easley suggested. Everybody give everything back, but let Alex be the king. He's earned it.
Alex liked that a lot. Half the crowd was undecided. Brett couldn't decide either, but silently wiped blood from his face with the back of his glove. Easley put a hand on Alex's shoulder.
You can be a benevolent king. Think of it. With one ruler, one boss in charge, everybody can live by the rules you make, and you can make sure we're all safe and cared for. He turned to the crowd. We could join together under one new viewpoint and have one big family. No more raids, no more fights, just one big, peaceful world. How about it? The kids picked it up quickly. Yeah, one family. King Alex! We can get our stuff back. No more raids. Cool. Easley spoke to Alex, knowing Brett would hear him. And Brett could be your lieutenant. He was pretty brave to take you on. I know he could serve you well. Couldn't you, Brett? Brett propped himself up on his elbows and looked up at Alex, searching his face. Alex dropped the smirk and actually looked kind. Hey, you give me respect, then I'll respect you, and we'll put everything back together. You get your stuff, we get ours. We stand together. Sound good? Brett thought, listened to the crowd, and finally conceded. Okay. Alex helped Brett to his feet, and with their arms around each other's shoulders, they raised their free hands to the crowd. The cheer from the kids echoed across the campus. The war was over. They were getting better and better. Ms. Jennifer Whitman, principal of Smithson High School in Denver, gave them a consoling look. "I have bad news. I think the program's been discontinued." Ms. Whitman reached into a desk drawer and pulled out 3 brochures, all similar in size and style, but different in one strange way. The photographs in each brochure were of a different academy, different buildings, different setting, different address on the back. The Knightmore Academy was a 2-week program offered for 4 summers in 4 different locations around the country. We got involved in the academy held in Borland 3 years ago. It was experimental. All the students went into it fully aware of that. "What kind of experiment?" Sarah asked. "A team of educators wanted to explore new techniques in education. The kids came back with a wider, fresher, global understanding. I think they came to realize that there is definitely more than one way to look at things. There are many different truths out there." Nate read the different locations on the brochures. "So there was one in Illinois 2 years ago, one in Virginia a year ago, the one in Colorado 3 years ago. And the very first one was, I believe, in Southern California. I don't have any information about that." As they drove back to the airport in their rented car, Nate spouted a question bothering him. "If the Knightmore Academy is a government project, why doesn't Morgan know about it? Why doesn't the president know about it?" Sarah leafed through the brochures. "So far we've seen a youth shelter and an entire campus disappear. What if these other campuses aren't there anymore?" "Well, we better hope they are, because if they aren't there anymore, then wherever the kids were taken—" "No need to say it." She sorted through the brochures and the scanned photograph of the mysterious redhead. "I'll fax this stuff to Morgan." The rec center was hopping again. Everyone was back feeling safe and actually celebrating having a student king on campus. Alex sat on a picnic table in the lounge area near the vending machines, presiding over the restoration of all stolen, shared goods. Mr. Easley happened to be there that night, smiling as broadly as ever, patting backs, giving hugs. He went to the pop machine, used a key from his pocket, and swung the machine open. "Nobody owns this pop. We have all things in common. Let's pass the drinks around and celebrate our new unity." Now that drew a crowd. A happy riot gathered instantly, and the machine was empty in a matter of minutes. Alex held his pop can high. "3 cheers for Mr. Easley! Hip, hip!" And they all hurrahed, the 3 cheers, cans high in the air. Easley waved to them all. "Gotta go. Have fun." He went out the door as they cheered after him. "Better and better!" Cher, formerly Marcy, cheered, holding her pop can high. Alicia, sitting on the bench next to Cher, looked glumly at her can of pop and just shook her head. Alex came striding over, pop can in hand, makeshift tie crown around his head. "Hey, what'd I tell you? I said we were going to even things up." She looked up at him, unable to find anything about him that she liked. "Congratulations." "Want to go for a walk?" "No, thank you." "Things are changing, and I'm worth knowing." Alex took her by her wrist and tugged her to her feet. "No, please." "Hey, you don't say no to the king." With a quick and simple defensive move, Elisha broke his grip on her wrist. There was a hush. The party stopped. No one moved. "Whoa," came a murmur in the crowd. Elisha stood her ground, looking Alex in the eye, hoping she had made herself clear. He leaned forward, raised a hand, about to say something. "Alex!" It was Warren stepping forward. "Come on. She's Jerry's girl." Alex planted one huge hand in Warren's chest and shoved him violently into the guys behind him. As Warren got up, he was looking past Alex. Everybody was. Alex looked over his shoulder. It was Elijah just inside the door. There was no question he'd heard what Alex said. Alex was in a spot. Everyone was watching. He had a throne to defend. He turned to face Elijah directly. "You heard what I said. How about it?" Elijah stood there a moment, looking at the crowd and then at Alex, and then he couldn't help snickering. "So this is how it works now, huh? You in a fight, and suddenly you're dictating opinions and looking for more fights so you can dictate more opinions?" Alex started toward him. "I'm going to shut that mouth of yours." "Alex!" It was Warren. Alex looked back. In that window of time, Warren went quickly to Elijah's side. "I owe you one," he told Elijah.
The sight of them side by side said everything. Alex had to think about this one.
"Hey, guys, come on," said Madonna. "We're supposed to be having a party."
"Alex, you're the king," said Brittany. "Don't spoil it. Let's just have fun." The murmur rippling through the crowd was beginning to lean heavily toward peace and partying. Brett, his face still puffy, came alongside Alex. "Save it. You're the king. Enjoy it." Alex turned to the crowd. "Let's party!" They partied, but Elijah and Elisha thought it best to get out of there. In his room, safe and unclobbered, Elijah did some figuring, scratching figures on a sheet of paper. Okay, base of right triangle, tangent of the angle, scratch. Arch tangent. Oh boy, okay, try it again. Okay, 47.17. Cool. Then he consulted the solar observations he'd recorded during the day. Okay, at 15 degrees per hour, that means the Earth rotated 115.8 degrees, so that puts us at 115 degrees 50 minutes west of Greenwich. Fabulosity! He'd borrowed a road atlas from the library. He flipped it open, hurriedly paged through it, and found the map he was looking for. One quick horizontal measurement, one quick vertical measurement, and he had his answer. He turned off the lights, grabbed his flashlight, and went to the window. Elisha's window was dark, meaning she was waiting for him to signal. He blinked out the hailing code. "Have location. Please copy." "Ready. 4710111550. North Central Idaho. Road to west. Town 10 miles, maybe. Worth a try." "Roger that. We must get out of here. Suggest tomorrow night." "Okay." Elijah clicked off his flashlight and relaxed on the floor below the window, his back against the wall. "Thank you, Lord." After all this madness, with so many things denied and unknown, the universe God made was still there. The stars, sun, and planets still precise and predictable. Because they were, he knew he and his sister were still on planet Earth, in a real place he could locate on a map. Working from that, he also had a pretty good idea of how to get somewhere else, and boy, was that comforting. The next morning, Nate and Sarah stood in the middle of a plowed field at the end of a dirt road in central Illinois. A farmer on his tractor spotted them, which wasn't hard to do. They were the only standing feature in several acres. "Can I help you folks?" he asked, shutting down the tractor engine. Nate was carrying a map in his hand. "We understand there used to be an academy around here, the Nightmare Academy." "Yeah, there surely was." "Could you tell us where it is?" "You're standing on it." That was not good news. Sarah had to verify. "You mean right here?" "Yeah, the government tore it down 2 years ago. Sold me the land cheap. I'm letting it lie fallow for now. Can't plant it till they get all the junk out of it. You should have seen the mess they left here. I keep plowing up bricks and concrete and pipes in the ground. Found some wires yesterday. It's a good thing I didn't get electrocuted. Yeah, they burned the whole thing down. Burned it down, then bulldozed the foundations and left a big mess for me to clean up. Hard to believe what used to be here. Buildings, sidewalks, everything. Can I get you folks some coffee or something?" Nate didn't have to ask Sarah. He could see it in her face. Thanks. We got to be going. We're up. Chapter 10. First Strike. Sally, wake up! It's all coming down! Elisha opened her eyes, irritated. Cher was prone to overstating things. "Mr. Easley got fired, and we're all going on strike." "What are you talking about?" "Mr. Easley got fired! Because he stole pop out of the pop machine last night." Elisha sat up, trying to make sense of this, as if anything ever made sense in this place. "I thought nobody owned anything, so you couldn't steal anything." "Well, somebody narked on him, and he got in trouble, and now he's fired, and Alex has called a strike." Elisha began to wake up. "I've got to find my friend, Jerry. Yeah, Jerry. He's outside waiting for you." She found Elijah on the football field. The kids, almost the whole student body, were gathered there, babbling excitedly and angrily. Alex was shouting orders. That guy really enjoyed being a king, and the kids responded to him. Alex spoke to Elijah.
We're going on strike until they bring Mr. Easley back. No class attendance, no nothing till we get what we want. Are you with us or against us?
Oh, I wouldn't miss it.
Sit over there.
Elijah gave him a little salute and found a place to sit. What do we do now? Somebody asked.
Alex strode back and forth, thinking. We sit tight.
How about a list of demands? Warren suggested.
Anybody got paper?
Alex asked. Maria, the little Hispanic from the volleyball game, passed a notepad forward. Alex started his list.
We want Easley back.
Yay!
Right! And I think we should always have free pop, said Brett. That brought a cheer.
And get rid of Booker, said Tanya, which brought an immense cheer.
Yeah, said Alex. Easley in, Booker out.
And I want a telephone so I can call my folks, said Cher.
Elisha joined the cheer for that one.
Then the chatter began to die down, one voice at a time. Eyes, one pair at a time, began to turn toward the far side of the field. A tight, short line of adults was coming their way from the campus, walking deliberately, shoulder to shoulder, marching. Right behind the line of adults, 10 big guys, including Rory, Tom, Jamal, and Clay, walked in another line, shoulder to shoulder, looking cool and tough, carrying chains in their hands. Out in front, like a general leading his troops, Booker was as grim as ever. They never broke formation until they stood before the kids like a line of riot police. Booker announced loudly,
Mr. Bingham would like to know what this is all about.
There was a significant silence. Everyone was looking at Alex. Alex was looking at Booker, groping for words. Read him the demands, said Brett. Alex gathered some courage.
We have a list of demands. We want Mr. Easley back. We want Booker.
Alex had trouble reading that one, especially with Mr. Booker standing right there, so he skipped that part.
We want unlimited pop from the machines, and
Booker grabbed the notebook from Alex's hand and slapped his face with it.
You arrogant fool. Bingham isn't about to grant an audience to a mob of barbarians. Your little demonstration is over as of now.
Alex asked Rory and his bunch.
So what are you going to do now, you traitors? These are your friends, your classmates. You're just going to beat them up with those chains? You're going to let this guy push us all around?
Booker started laughing, purposely, in Alex's face.
These gentlemen are not the barbarians here.
He addressed the crowd.
The Knightmore Academy, while encouraging freedom and progress of thought, has policies in place to maintain order and discipline. Mr. Easley and his utopian vision are one thing. The will of those with authority is quite another. When I learned of Mr. Easley's indiscretion, I had no choice but to report him. His fate was well deserved. Now it appears we have another indiscretion that must be dealt with, and harshly. The rec center, all games, all diversions, all sports equipment will be padlocked. The cafeteria, all vending machines will be padlocked. No fun and no food for the rest of the day.
That stung everyone. They exchanged looks of alarm and disbelief.
Apparently you forgot where all your fun and food come from. Now, show us you can remember. Any member of the student body who reports to my classroom promptly by 3, clean, in uniform, and ready to comply with the Academy's policies, will be granted amnesty, and perhaps the evening meal. Carefully consider whether it is in your best interests to submit to those in power, or to follow the foamings of a would-be emperor with a futile cause. The choice is up to you.
He looked at his 10 big student bruisers. Gentlemen, proceed. Rory and his gang headed out toward the rec center and cafeteria, chains and padlocks in hand. Booker had done it again. For the 3rd time, he had cut away Alex's power and dignity in front of everyone and made him look foolish. One look at the rage in Alex's face, and several kids decided that being elsewhere was a good idea. Elijah figured it would be a good time to leave as well. He shot a glance at Elisha, who rose to her feet.
Booker was quick to intercept Elijah's path and tell him in a clearly audible voice, "I am sorry to see you in such a situation, Jerry. I did enjoy our talk." He gave Elijah a friendly pat on the shoulder, then moved on. The kids were all staring at him. "Jerry, you told Booker?" Elisha piped up, "Of course not. He wasn't even there. He didn't see Mr. Easley open the pop machine." "He didn't have to," said Alex. "Everybody knew about it. Mr. Booker asked to see me," Elijah began to explain. "It was about something else. He was trying to get me to be one of his cops." Alex had been waiting for a good reason to publicly pulverize Elijah, and now he'd found it. "You've always had it in for Mr. Easley." He gave Elijah a taunting little shove. "Every discussion group. You were the one who caused all the trouble." Another shove. "You saw your chance and you took it. A two-handed shove." Elijah took the shoving and tried to stay cool. "Listen, I know you want to fight, but I'm not—" Elijah should have seen it coming. A violent punch to his midsection. He doubled over, pain coursing through every organ in his body. He toppled to the ground, his arms enfolding his stomach. "Get up," Alex demanded. Elisha grabbed Alex's arm and yanked him angrily. "You leave him alone!" He turned and grabbed her right back. "So you want in on this too?" Elisha struggled, pulling and kicking. Then she brought her heel down on his instep like a 30-pound spike. It was enough to loosen his grip. She slipped free. He grabbed for her again. Wham! His head cracked against a speeding wall from out of nowhere. Another blow, this one to his stomach, and it felt like he'd been hit with a flying manhole cover. Elijah planted himself between Alex and his sister. "Now, can we please stop this?" Alex roared like a grizzly and charged, bowling him over like a sapling under a truck tire. They rolled, they punched, kicked, and gouged. Somehow they got on their feet again, fist hitting flesh, arms blocking punches, legs kicking, tripping, blocking. Elisha fell back to watch. She could see where this fight was going, right where Elijah wanted it to go. He was fighting defensively, evading, ducking, blocking, saving his strength, making Alex put out all the effort. And it was working. Alex was getting tired. He was slowing down, getting rubber-legged, losing accuracy in his attack. Elijah kept backing, feinting, ducking, jabbing, leading Alex around inside that circle until the moment came. Elijah blocked a bad punch, poorly aimed. The big guy wasn't seeing straight. Elijah could see another blow coming a year before it arrived and ducked it. Time to fell the tree, and none too soon. Elijah spun and threw a high kick right across Alex's jaw. Alex went down, blood dripping from his mouth. Brett knelt down to persuade him not to continue. Around the circle, there was a strange reaction. Some kids were still suspicious of him, wondering if he was the snitch. Elijah turned to them. Some cheered. "Don't cheer! Just because I win a stupid brawl doesn't make me a better man." He looked down at Alex, who glared at him through puffy eyes. "No more than you beating me up makes you a king." He looked at all their faces. "Is this the kind of world you want? War? And stealing? And beating people up? It's stupid. It's not the way to—" Everyone's attention shifted to the sight of adults coming their way, on the run, coming to restore order and looking mad enough to make it hurt. Alex was still lucid enough to be sly. He went limp, moaning in pain, holding his stomach. Brett reported he tried to take over. He didn't like Alex's leadership, so he attacked him when he wasn't looking. "Oh, Brett, come on," Elijah wilted and sighed. "Does anyone want to know the truth?" Two teachers moved in and grabbed Elijah by the arms. "This campus has had enough trouble. It's time to clean house. We've seen plenty, young man. Come on." "No," Elisha cried. "You've got it all wrong." Elijah, still hoping to find an ounce of reason in any of these people, spoke calmly. "You're making a mistake. If you'll just let me explain my side of it." Elisha grabbed at the teachers, holding her brother. "Will you listen to me? He's innocent. He was defending himself. He was defending me." "Right," said one teacher. "It looks like it." "What are you doing?" she cried, watching them take Elijah away like a prisoner. "Where are you taking him?" Elisha heard an ominous clanking of steel as the big iron gate began to swing open. A searing pang of fear coursed through Elisha like deadly voltage. She just knew something horrible lay beyond that gate. "No!" The teachers took Elijah through the gate, and the big iron jaw swung shut with a low electric hum. Elijah, being hurried along by his two captors, looked over his shoulder and called to his sister, "I'll be all right." Then he mouthed the words, "You go, go," as he nodded toward the unseen road. The heavy electronic latch clanged into place the instant Elisha reached it. She fell against the iron bars, gripping them. "Don't take him! Take me!" The gate didn't even rattle when she tugged at it. The two men were dragging Elijah up the long walkway. He looked over his shoulder one last time to let his eyes say, "I'll be okay." And then... Chapter 11. The Mansion and the Monster. When the metal door clanged shut, a deep rumble rolled up and down the tight, dimly lit hallway like an echo in a mine tunnel. They were deep beneath the mansion now. Elijah could sense the weight of rock, concrete, and the multi-story structure stacked above him. Thick clusters of electrical wire ran along the ceiling. A low electrical hum kept ringing in the walls. He could hear compressed air moving, water running, fluid surging. "What do you guys do down here, anyway?" They took him through a doorway into a small bedroom. They pushed him down so that he sat on a narrow bed, then let go. "Stay here until we come for you." They locked the door and left him alone. All around him, in the walls, in the air, in the floor, was a low, steady, rumbling life. Much like being aboard a ship or an airliner, this building wasn't just sitting. It was running like a big machine. It was alive. "If this mansion's a monster," he thought, "then I'm in its stomach." Nate and Sarah landed in Coeur d'Alene, in the northern panhandle of Idaho, and parked the airplane in front of Resort Aviation. Inside the office, a young gal with curly blonde locks was working behind the counter. "Are you the Springfields?" she asked. That scared them. How did she know their names? "Is someone expecting us?" Sarah asked. "Your ride's here now." The clerk pointed out the window toward the parking lot. A black car was waiting. The man inside gave them a subtle wave. It was Morgan. They hurried out the door and climbed into the car. "What is it?" Sarah demanded. "What's happened?" "Easy, easy," said Morgan. "No bad news yet, but it's time for a face-to-face. I got us some rooms." "Okay, what have you got?" "It's a government project," said Morgan. "And then again, it isn't." "Morgan! Our children are missing. Now, we've been hopscotching across the country chasing an academy that's never there. We don't need don't know, might know, can't know. Give us some facts we can work with, or let us get some sleep." Morgan took Sarah's lashing in stride and pulled out a document. "This might help explain it. It's last year's budget report from the Department of Education." Morgan guided Nate to the third page of columns and figures and pointed to a small, obscure item, Educational Research Grant. "Here's a tidy little expense that's been slipping through unquestioned for the past 5 years. The president was never told about it, and neither was the current Secretary of Education." Nate was impressed. $20 million per year. "That's government money?" "Your taxes, my taxes. 5 years ago, the previous president and several of his cronies in Congress allotted these funds for research in global education. And part of the program was to set up special laboratories to test their theories with volunteer students." Now Sarah was sitting up. "The campuses that aren't there anymore." "Exactly. It all looked very legitimate. Somebody's up to no good and hiding it well, even from the president. He and the Secretary of Education had their suspicions, but with no solid facts, he couldn't order an investigation without drawing vicious attacks from his enemies in Congress, not to mention the media." "And so the facts are all buried," said Sarah. "Cleared and reforested, plowed under a farmer's field." "Imploded?" Nate and Sarah looked at him strangely. "The Dartmoor Hotel was imploded just yesterday. It's gone. Demolished. If we can find an actual operating campus and find out what it's really being used for, then maybe we'll get that investigation authorized and stop this monster in its tracks. This whole thing is receiving government money, but it's not a government project because it's a renegade, carrying out a secret agenda that could be entirely illegal. That is where things stand, yes." "Oh, yes, about Margaret Jones." "Your information was very helpful. Friends in the right places have filled in some blanks.
She might be in this area. Now that impressed Sarah. "I want her, Morgan." "You'll be the first to know." In the meantime, Nate unfolded a U.S. forestry map of the Idaho Panhandle. "We've got a few zillion acres of national forest to comb through."
"Oh, Sally, I'm so sorry. I heard about Jerry."
Elisha was trying to hold herself together.
We just have to pray that they'll let Jerry out and not hurt him."
Elisha could see the roof line of the mansion through the trees.
"I won't leave you here, Elijah. God help me, I won't leave you here."
The low rumble of the monster machine stopped, just like that. Elijah sat up from a catnap and listened. The stillness was so total it was scary. He checked his watch. He'd been waiting here for 2 hours. He decided to take a much closer look at this room to learn about it. Only one flat, recessed light fixture illuminated the room. The walls were wood paneling, the kind one sees in cheap motels or outdated restaurants. Not very attractive, but definitely more homey than concrete. What about the bathroom? He opened the door and looked inside. It was a little bigger than a phone booth. You had to squeeze around the sink to get to the toilet. He stepped back into the bedroom. It was blue. Whoa, hold on, wait a minute. He blinked and looked again. Blue. The walls, the ceiling, the floor, even the bedspread were blue. He waited to see if his eyes would adjust to the light. He looked in the bathroom again, then into the bedroom. It was still blue. He repeated his previous action, stepping quickly into the bathroom and back out again, but the room stayed blue. He felt the walls and the floor. Blue paint, blue linoleum. The bedspread was blue on both sides. Even the sheets were blue. He sat on the bed to think a moment. Was he wrong about the wood paneling? Was his memory out of whack? Just to be sure about everything, he walked over and tried the door. It used to be locked, but it wasn't locked now. The hallway outside was wood-paneled, just as the bedroom used to be, or just as he thought the bedroom used to be. But wait, he didn't remember the hallway having wood paneling. He remembered bare concrete, pipes, wires, tubes, mechanical sounds, an electric hum, dim lighting. Did he come this way in the first place? Had he gone through a different door? He looked back in the bedroom again. It was still there, still blue. He opened the door widely, then removed his blazer and placed it at the bottom of the jamb to keep the door from closing all the way. He ventured down the hall. He did not remember coming this way, or going past these doorways on either side. Were they more bedrooms or cells like his? He tried one of the doorknobs. The door opened. The room inside was dark. He felt inside for a light switch, found one, flipped the light on. It was a bare little room with a chair and table. On the table was a burgundy blazer. There were grass stains on the elbow and shoulder, a torn seam down the back. He drew closer, unable, unwilling to believe it. The tears, scuffs, and grass stains were unmistakable. He quickly checked the pocket. A crumpled sheet of notebook paper was still there, the paper upon which he'd written the navigational coordinates he'd calculated. He unfolded it and read his own handwriting. 45 degrees, 6 minutes north. 120 degrees, 10 minutes west. These were not the coordinates he remembered. No, the latitude was 47 something. The longitude was something like 115. He sat in the chair to think, afraid to move another step. It's a head trip, he thought. They're messing with my mind. This is what they did to Alvin Rogers, but how are they doing this? Directly in front of him, through the open door, he could see the hallway. It no longer ran to the left and right, but extended straight ahead, as if this room were at the very end of it. It had pink flowered wallpaper, white wood trim, and a beige carpet. Just before 3 o'clock, Elisha and Mariah hurried down the sidewalk, in uniform, heading for Booker's classroom. There were plenty of other uniforms around. Brittany, Cher, and Madonna Brittany were looking sharp, and so were Warren and his friends, but Alicia's heart went sick. Ramon was wearing a sleeveless T-shirt, jeans, chrome necklace, and an arrogant smile. Brett was wearing jeans and untucked flannel shirt. Rory and his gang, Booker's cops, were wearing whatever they wanted, and all of them were wearing their ties as headbands. "What's happening?" said Mariah, the fear back in her voice. Alicia couldn't believe what she was seeing. "I don't know." She didn't say it, but thought, "Something terrible has happened." They went into the classroom. All the students were showing up in the room at the same time, so the place was getting quite full. There was no joking, no talking, hardly any looking around. Alicia could see fear in many of the faces. Fear of speaking, fear of questioning, fear of the next minute. Rory, Jamal, Tom, Clay, and 10 other guys, all of them toughs, were lined up against the back wall, some with arms folded, some with thumbs perched in their pant waists, commanding respect and fear simply by how they looked back at everyone. And every one of them was wearing his tie around his head. The room was full now, full and quiet, like a gang of friends waiting to surprise somebody. At 2:01, they heard familiar steps approaching. The door opened, and Mr. Booker burst into the room with his usual regal flair. His gait slowed, however, as he looked about until he came to a full stop halfway up the center aisle. From the center of the room, he slowly turned, studying the crowd, taking note, meeting any eye that dared to return his gaze. Then he saw his privately paid cops all standing with Alex, headbands made from their ties, and he actually flinched, visibly shocked. Seconds passed, and he could say nothing. Something else Alicia had never seen. He just stood there staring at Alex, with quick little glances around the room. Alicia knew he was counting uniforms and non-uniforms. She'd already made a quick count herself, and knew the news was bad. Booker was receiving that bad news right now, in deadly little doses. Finally, Alex spoke. "It's over, Booker." Booker addressed Rory and the cops. "Gentlemen, we had an arrangement." Rory shrugged and nodded toward Alex. "He's got friends with keys to the cash box. He cut us a better deal." You can't do this!" Alex walked forward, flanked by Rory, Tom, Jamal, and Clay, the Big Four. "Can't! You say I can't! I say I can! You know how it works, Booker. Come on, let me hear you say it." Booker was actually scared. He was backing up the aisle while Alex and his guys kept coming at him. I'm sure we can reach a consensus here, a fresh viewpoint." Alex made a little beckoning gesture right under Booker's chin. "Come on, say it." "I don't say it! What's it all about, Booker?" Booker conceded, nodding quickly. "Power. It's all about power." Alex gleefully completed the slogan, tapping his chest. "And now I have it." They'd reached the front of the room. Booker was hemmed in against his desk. He cried out to the rest of the kids, Are you going to let this happen?" Tanya was the first on her feet. "We don't respect you anymore." The whole room exploded in yells, taunts, jeers. The non-uniforms were all on their feet, shaking their fists in the air, cursing Booker, filling the room with deafening noise. "No respect! No respect! No respect!" The uniforms were looking about, wide-eyed, undecided. It was all so sudden, so brazen, so frightening. Some stood to keep from being different. Some sat, not knowing what else to do. Alex and his toughs, egged on by the crowd, grabbed Mr. Booker and dragged him down the aisle toward the door. As they went outside, the rest of the toughs followed, and then the mob. Non-uniforms rushing, uniforms carried along, out the door like water through a breached dam. By the time Alicia and Mariah got outside, the mob had surrounded Booker. He was trying to run, tripping, falling, and crawling on the ground, trying to get up, knocked down again, crawling again, covering his head with one arm as Alex and the Big Four kicked, poked, slapped, and shoved him, and as members of the mob got their licks in. Rory's toughs came running from the cafeteria with cases of stolen pop, spreading the cans through the crowd. The kids shook the cans, popped them open, and sprayed soft drink all over the deposed teacher, cheering wildly with each blast.
They were a mob now, beyond words, beyond threats, beyond control. Then came the turning point, and Elisha saw it happen. Booker, tattered, bruised, and soaked with soft drink, bolted and ran for the iron gate. Then kids around the field, seemingly on the same cue, began tearing off their burgundy blazers and whipping their ties and scarves around their heads. The universe had flip-flopped. The adults were no longer in charge. And now not just Booker, but the other teachers and staff were running for their lives, heading across the field toward the big iron gate, Booker in the lead, then Mr. Bateman running and helping the limping Mrs. Fitzhugh. Mrs. Wendell kicked off her shoes so she could run. Tanya found one of them and threw it at her. The gate swung open. The adults ran faster than Elisha could even envision an adult running. All out. No dignity, no reserve, no grown-up attitude. They were just plain running. Elisha and Mariah could see the gate closing behind the fleeing grown-ups just in time to save their lives. Alex was leaping in the air, jubilant. The kids were cheering. Their world was suddenly different. Chapter 12. Both and, either or. Elijah couldn't find his bedroom cell. Whatever hallway led back to it was gone. He was bewildered. It was one thing to wander in a fixed, unchanging environment like a forest. It was another to have the environment wander around him. But would it continue to wander if he didn't move? He found a concrete bench against a wall, tested it first with his hand, and then sat. He fell through the bench like it wasn't there, tumbled backward and downward, and finally landed, not too hard, flat on his back, looking up at the ceiling that gave no indication he had just fallen through it. The ceiling was covered with red carpet. There was an upside-down doorway with its bottom tight against the ceiling. There was a chair and a potted plant stuck to the ceiling. The ceiling wasn't the ceiling. Elijah closed his eyes and felt his nerves tingle with instinctive terror as his senses sent him a message. You're on the ceiling, looking down at the floor. You're going to fall. He argued back, It's a trick! It's a trick! A very good trick, good enough to make him nauseated. His body told him the center of the earth was behind his back. His eyes told him the opposite. The door above him opened, and a young man came in, walking upside down on his floor. Elijah could just about reach out and touch him. Hello? Hello down there? The kid looked around again. Who's there? He looked up again. I'm going crazy, Elijah thought. The kid was Elijah Springfield. Himself! Looking lost and perplexed, wearing the same clothes and looking like he just had a terrible fight with someone. Can you see me? The other Elijah finally looked his direction and gawked, quite startled. Are you real? Elijah sat up so he could reach down. Their hands touched. His stomach felt like he'd just done a somersault. He was the Elijah he'd been talking to. His stomach churned and roiled. He was sick and getting sicker. He looked around the room for a place he could throw up and lunged toward the corner in time to give a gift to the potted plant. Elisha hurried, pulling Mariah along. Come on, I want to search the office building for a telephone. But everybody said there aren't any phones. Mariah, since when is the word of anyone on this campus worth anything? They ducked behind the library, then sneaked behind the office building and tried the rear door. It opened. They divided up and went from room to room, checking for phone jacks. They searched as far as the front office, but came up empty. The front office had a computer just sitting there idle, with no one around. Email, said Elisha. She took the chair at the keyboard, then reached down for the on-off switch on the computer tower. She pressed it. The whole tower scooted backwards as if it weighed nothing. The tower was an empty box. It's a dummy. It's a fake. Elisha was already looking around the room. She clicked on the copy machine. It worked, but it was out of toner and had no paper. She opened the desk drawers. The drawers were empty. The file cabinet was a hollow shell. This whole office is a fake. Then from somewhere far up the hill came the of a diesel engine. It's heavy equipment. Like a bulldozer. A bulldozer, Mariah repeated, eyes wide with wonder and fear. Another voice made them jump. Hello, ladies. It was Tom and Clay, two of Alex's big four. Alicia could have kicked herself for not paying more attention and letting them sneak up. But Warren was with them, gesturing for calm as he said, "It's okay. There doesn't have to be any trouble. Alex has called a meeting in the rec center, and everyone has to be there." The rec center had been reopened with the same keys that locked it. Alex was already holding forth as Alicia and Mariah, with their escorts, came into the room. "It's just us now. We are the voice. We are the future. It's time to send a message and tell those people up there what we want." What do we want?" asked Marvin. Ideas began to float around the crowd amid cheers. Brett took notes. More fun time, more access to food, less homework, no homework, volleyball games that could actually be won. Warren asked, "So what about Mr. Easley? Don't we want him back?" "Easley? Easley? Who's
that?
You ever heard of Easley?"
No way. No,
Do
I
not
never
know
heard of Easley.
Never heard of him. "I'm running things now," said Alex. "We don't need any help. So who's with me?" He got a rousing cheer, but several kids were holding back, and he noticed. "Okay, here's what's going to happen. You take your tie or your scarf, and you wear it like this, or you wear it on your arm. You do that, it means you're with us. You don't do it, we break your arm." "Now you're being just like Booker," came a single voice in the crowd. The silence, the sudden chill began with Alex as he sat on the table staring across the room. Those near him fell silent as well, and then the kids next to them. All eyes were on Alicia, who'd made no effort to tie anything around her head or arm or anywhere else. "You are the ones making all the fuss about the uniforms, and now you're just making up another uniform." "We're the group," said Alex, "and we've decided everybody should wear something to show unity." Then came the zinger. "You with us?" Alicia addressed everyone around her. "You should know where this is going to lead, what it's going to turn into." "Hey, what about Jerry? You join up with us, we'll get him back." Cher brought her a scarf. "Here, Sally, put it on." "Come on," said Ramon. "We'll show him." "What's it going to be?" Alex prodded. "Jerry..." She felt like a liar and a coward's not using her brother's real name. "Jerry would have to bow to you. He'd have to say you're right. And he won't do that. And neither will I." She handed the scarf back to Cher. "Thank you." Elijah was outdoors, or at least he thought he was. There was a sky above him, sometimes. There was soft earth below him, sometimes. The temperature was strangely warm. The smells all wrong. The sounds, it was so noisy out here. The wind kept rushing. He clamped his eyes shut. The glare of the darkness hurt them, but he held them shut and tried to think, tried to find any sensible thought, real sensation, any unjumbled memory. Every nerve, every sense told him the earth had become a raging sea around him. He tried to shut it all out, tried to dig for a word, a thought, a memory. "The Lord is my shepherd," he thought, amazed that the words were still intact somewhere in his spinning, crazed head. "I shall not want." The wind rushing. He was falling again. He opened his eyes and saw tree branches whipping toward him. They slapped him, scratched him, lashed him. He tumbled, spun, crashing through them. He grabbed a limb. It tore loose from his hand. His body smacked into another, slowing his fall enough to grab on. His feet flew past him, and he was dangling in space. The sky below him, the ground above. Feeling a new terror. There's no stopping when you fall into the sky. The rec center was in full swing, the lights flashing, the music pounding, the games gobbling KMs. Then everything stopped. The video games went black. The lights went out. The girls screamed. The power was out. The room was in total darkness. Pandemonium. Hands groping, people yelling, girls screaming. From somewhere in all the noise and confusion, Alex was shouting, "Quiet, everybody! Quiet, it's okay!" He started calling for his crew, getting them to work on the problem. Alicia remembered an exit only 10 feet to her right. With just a few seconds of searching by touch, she found the door. She slipped through it. It was after dark, but with the stars and moon not nearly as dark as inside the rec center. The power was out everywhere, the whole campus dark, but she was still in the open and visible. Not safe. She heard a scream from the woods and the growl of a huge animal, and that sound seemed to stir up more. From the thickly wooded hills all around the campus came the eerie, haunting echoes of animals in the night. The low growls of bears, the blood-chilling screech of cougars, the howls of wolves. The mountains came alive, and the sounds seemed so close. She stole into her dorm, made it inside her room, found the flashlight, and dropped to the floor, shining the light under her bed. Her radio was still where she'd hidden it, tucked among the bed springs. She pulled it out, groped for the switch. She dropped it. It fell no more than a foot, hit the floor, and broke open. She grabbed the fallen radio case. It was light, empty, just a thin half shell of plastic. Her radio had been gutted, except for one battery still wired in to make the little red light come on, to fool her and Elijah into thinking the radio still worked. There was nothing inside the radio but metal washers and modeling clay. With the shock wrenching her insides, she fell back, holding the remnants of the only contact she might have had with the outside world. She began to realize that every time she thought she was sending a message, she'd only been talking to a dead little box. Worse yet, they knew. Whenever, however those people in that big mansion did this, they had to know that she and her brother were not ordinary runaways. The empty radio case clattered to the floor as a different kind of darkness invaded her, constricting her soul. She'd been in danger before, and knew what fear was, and she knew what it was like to be alone. But fear and loneliness were nothing compared to this. Despair went straight for her hope, stealing it from her, leaving her with nothing but a blackened room, enemies all around, predators in the woods, nowhere to go, and no one to hear her cries for help except, "Oh, Jesus," she prayed, and by now she couldn't help but weep. "What am I going to do? What am I going to do? Help me. Please help me." A miracle would have been so welcome. An angel to suddenly barge into the middle of this madness and carry her and her brother out of this nightmare to safety, to Mom and Dad, to their ranch and home. But there was no angel, no miracle. She let go, abandoning herself to her sobbing, her hand over her mouth lest the sound of her anguish carry outside the room. "Sally!" came a voice. She held back a sob. "Oh, dear Jesus, no, don't let them find me." The voice came nearer. "Sally, are you in here?" It was Mariah. Mariah came into the room, stumbled over her, and then plopped down beside her on the floor. "The big people up in the mansion have turned off all the electricity. They're trying to starve us out or freeze us out or something." "Mariah, Joan," Alicia was about to get mad. "Do we have to play that stupid game now? I'm not playing a game. That's my name. I'm Joan Matheson. I live in Port Orchard, Washington. I'm 15, and I ran away from home 2 weeks ago, and I'm scared." "Joan, are you being honest with me?" "Yeah." "What about the kid who was taken up to the mansion before Jerry and I got here? Did that really happen?" "Yeah." "What was his name?" "I wanted us to call him Nick, but Alex called him Alvin." "Tell me about Alex. What's his real name?" "It's Harold."
So here's to the
"Joan?"
memories, the dust in the sun, to
"My
the
name
laughter
isn't Sally.
shared when we were
It's
young.
Alicia.
No matter the
Alicia
miles,
Springfield.
it's always sweet.
I'm from
That
Montana,
sacred place where
and
the
I'm
dirt
scared too.
roads meet.
Some of the kids are hiding. Alex, Harold, now he wants everybody to call him Alexander. He says we'll be all right if we do what he tells us, but what if Alex or Rory or some of those guys want to do something to one of us? Who's going to stop them?" Alicia hadn't noticed yet, but the despair had left her. "We have to keep that from happening. We have to do whatever it takes. We have to think and look and pray and let God show us what to do. I found a phone." Alicia's next words stuck in her throat. "What did you say?" "I found it in the office closet," Joan whispered. "I was going to hide in there, but then I thought I should find you and tell you." They hurried over to the front office, their one flashlight guiding their way, and there it was, resting on the computer desk where Joan had left it. Alicia grabbed up the receiver and put it to her ear. The line was dead. Alicia traced the telephone's cord. It isn't even plugged in. Alicia ducked under the desk, shining the beam of her flashlight up and down the wall until she found what she'd seen there earlier, a phone jack. She plugged the phone line in and grabbed the receiver. A dial tone. She tapped out a number, her dad's cell phone, and waited. From the hall, a flashlight beam clicked on and began playing about the room. The beam caught Joan's face, her frightened eyes wide in the light. She's here, Joan said. Alicia heard a connection.
Hi, this is Nate Springfield. I'm sorry I can't come to the phone right now.
The beam of light hit Alicia in the eyes, blinding her. She raised her own light and shined it back. Alex's leering eyes looked back at her.
Well, if you'll leave a message, I'll get back to you.
Another light clicked on behind Alex. She couldn't see the face. It was somebody big. A third light clicked on near the front door. Too cool. The voice was Rory's. She searched with her light and found Alex's face once again. He was looking at Joan. Good job. Now you better get out of here. Rory opened the front door. Joan hurried to leave, but looked back, shaking her head feebly. I was afraid. She ran out the door, and Rory closed it. In the telephone, Nate's voicemail beeped for the message.
You guys hold her, said Alex.
For more of Frank Peretti's Nightmare Academy, go to
Chapter 13. Something true, someone blue. Dad, Alicia said. Rory and the big shadow behind the flashlight were closing in on her. She moved her knee in a lightning-fast upkick, aiming for the center of this guy's existence. By the way he hollered and let go of her, she knew she'd connected. A blow to his throat with her flashlight sent him reeling backward. Rory was right behind him. She leaped sideways, putting the desk between them. She shined her flashlight on her left forearm. The numbers Elijah had given her were still there, written in blue ink in a safe place she wouldn't lose. She could see Rory's face in the bounced and reflected light now flying about the room. She whipped the phone receiver across his jaw and then kicked him in the chest. He stumbled backward. 4, 7, she yelled into the phone. Alex grabbed her from behind, his big arm around her neck. She automatically whipped her leg behind his and tripped him backward. When his back caught the corner of the empty filing cabinet, he weakened enough for her to wriggle loose and bang his forehead with the butt of her flashlight. 1, 0, 1, 1, she said, struggling to her feet in the dark. She leaped on top of the desk, taking the high ground, and from there kicked Rory in the face. He staggered away, holding his nose and cursing. 5, 5, 0, and I love you. Alex was coming at her from behind. The big shadow was back, coming at her from in front. She could see his silhouette against the window. She ran along the desk, bounded off the copy machine, and dove right into the shadow's chest. He fell backward through the window, crashing the glass. She hung onto his shirt for all she was worth, tucked her head in, and rode him through, letting him take the cutting and the impact of the sidewalk outside the window as shards of glass followed them, tinkling on the concrete. He wouldn't be getting up soon. She somersaulted onto the grass, got to her feet, and took off across the field. There was no question, no option, no choice, no doubt. She was going to reach the mansion. She was going to find her brother. They were going to get out of this place or die in the process. Alicia ran to the corner of the wall where the wall met the forest. Thick forest. Her brother had been here. He'd been up this hill. He'd encountered a bear. There had to be a way. She pressed into the brush, groping with her hands, pressing on with nothing to lose. She could see the lights from the mansion off her left shoulder, but still no gap in that stubborn stone wall. Then, up ahead, she could see the branches of trees and the amber glow from one of the mansion's yard lights. A clearing, like a road, was allowing light from the mansion to penetrate the forest. It might be the road her brother almost reached before she groped along the wall, trying to find a place to climb it. Oh! She dropped as through a trapdoor, quicker than she could realize what was happening, slipping, sliding, dropping down a bizarre rabbit hole, her eyes useless in the total dark. She was just beginning to think this felt like a water slide without the water when, oof, she landed on a smooth floor, tumbling, sliding, squeaking to a stop. It was totally dark. She could hear a steady mechanical hum as if she were inside the belly of a huge machine. The party in the rec center was over. "Where's Alexander?" Ramon asked. "He went to take care of some business," Brett answered, trying to hold things together in the boss's absence. 2 flashlights came through the door, carried by 2 muggers who looked like they were the ones who'd been mugged. Alexander was limping with a sore back, and Rory was holding a cloth to his bleeding mouth. Alex muttered, "She ran toward the mansion. Thinks she can get away." "Where's Clay?" "We carried him to his room. He'll be okay. He fell through the window." Ramon was only the first to start asking questions. "So what do we do now?" Kids were coming out of the dark, gathering like moths around a lamp. They were scared, hungry, and restless.
We're all in trouble now.
The lights back
I
on.
need a shower. There's no hot water.
All right, Alex, what are you going to do?
Yeah, Alex, what are you going to do?
They're just trying to scare us. They're trying to break us down and make us give up. But listen, we're not going to give up. We've won the first round, and tomorrow morning we're going to win the second. Alexander could see lights on up on the hill. They think as long as they can hide behind that wall, they can play around with us. Down here, we're just their puppets. But up there, up in that mansion, that's where the strings are. That's where the power is. I know what to do. Nate and Sarah were driving through Coeur d'Alene. They'd spent the day going over maps, making phone calls, grappling with bureaucrats, but no one had ever heard or seen anything about a summer academy for high school kids or runaways. It was late at night. They were tired and beyond frustrated. Sarah picked up Nate's cell phone. "Oh, we missed a call." She pressed the button to play back the message, listened, and her face went pale. "Pull over!" On the west edge of Coeur d'Alene, Mr. Morgan opened the passenger door of his car, and a matronly woman got out. Together they walked across the street and up the steps onto a broad front porch. Some lights were still on. The occupant was enjoying a late TV show and not expecting callers. That was fortunate. Morgan rang the doorbell. A moment later, the door opened a crack, and a red-headed woman looked out. "Sorry, ma'am. Please pardon the intrusion." "And who are you?" "My name is Morgan." He showed her some ID. "This is Emily Perkins, a forensic consultant assisting me." He then referred to some papers in his hand, color copies of Knight Moore brochures and a photograph of Kathy Simons holding a trout. "Kathy Simons? Or should I address you as Suzanne Dorning? Or perhaps Margaret Jones?" She looked at his evidence and said nothing, but her face said everything. "I work with a team of private investigators, and since our investigation keeps leading to you, it might be in your interest to make sure our information is correct. May we chat?" She sighed and let them in. Nate and Sarah were forcing themselves to remain calm, to think, to work with the information they just received from Alicia's frantic phone call. They could hear the struggle in the background, the sounds of kicking, tripping, falling, the sound of the receiver being dropped, followed by a horrible crashing of glass. Now all they had was a hodgepodge of numbers staring at them from Sarah's notepad. Nate listened to the error message from his cell phone. "Did we miss any of the numbers?" Sarah shook her head. "It's all she gave us. She finished her message. She said she loved us at the end, right before we heard the crash. It has to be enough." They stared at the numbers. 47, 471, 4,710, 47 and 10. He froze. He tapped on the numbers with his pen. "That's it. That's it!" Sarah was already catching on. 47 and 10. Nate grabbed his pen and divided the digits into groups. 47 and 10, 115 and 50. Latitude and longitude. Nate was already scrambling for the Forest Service map. 47 degrees 10 minutes north latitude, 115 degrees 50 minutes west longitude. "Oh, kids, I love you. I love you." He located the coordinates on the map. "Closest town is Stony Bend, good distance southeast of here. Call Morgan. Tell him we're going." He tossed Sarah the map and hit the gas pedal. Nothing further was going to happen unless she made it happen. Alicia lay belly down and began inching along, reaching out in front and to the sides, probing and exploring. Bang! A loud noise and a sudden flood of light nearly scared her to death. A wall panel had opened, vanishing into the ceiling in the blink of an eye. Squinting in the light, Alicia could see she was in a small, square room. Trying to get accustomed to the light, she could vaguely see someone walking up that hallway, coming toward her. It was a young man. He was wearing a burgundy blazer. He kind of walked like her brother. It was her brother. She got to her feet. "Elijah! Elijah, are you all right?" Elijah was smiling at her, encouraging her. He looked pretty tired, but okay. "Where are we?" "Come on!" He turned into a side passage. She hurried to catch up, rounded the corner, and saw him go through a door. She broke into a run, got to the door, hurried through. Bang! The door slammed shut, and she was blind again, in total darkness. "Elijah! Elijah, talk to me. What's going on?" A voice from somewhere said, "Okay, here she is." "Hello?" "Elisha." She didn't recognize the voice. "Just stand there a minute." She heard the rumble of another wall moving on rollers. A vertical slit of dim rose-colored light appeared, then widened, expanding from right to left like a curtain drawing back. The wall kept opening, and she was awestruck. Stretching into the semi-darkness were 2 rows of control consoles with a dozen technicians wearing headsets, sitting at computer screens, TV monitors, and daunting control boards with thousands of knobs, dials, faders, toggles, readouts. On the far wall, huge video screens were flickering from one view of the Academy campus to another. "I'm either in a really big TV studio or a spaceship," she thought. A man dressed in black approached her. "Hello. Let me show you to a chair." He led her to what looked like a small set for a TV talk show. She sat in the chair. "Comfortable?" "Yeah. What happened to my brother?" Another voice from amid all that glowing equipment answered. "Your brother is here with us." That voice she recognized. "Mr. Bingham." "Welcome, Miss Elisha Springfield. Please make yourself comfortable." And just behind him, looking very victorious, was Mr. Booker, none the worse for wear, his formal, imposing air gone, his hair combed differently, like an actor out of costume. Next to him, perfectly comfortable in Booker's presence and apparently still employed, was Mr. Easley. "We'll get to you in a moment," said Bingham. "I'm sure you're wondering—" "They're in the tool room," reported the technician, tweaking dials and looking up at the big video screens. Elisha watched in amazement. The 4 big screens provided multiple wide-angle views of the tool room, and she could see Alexander, Brett, Ramon, and Rory gathering up the rakes, shovels, axes, hammers, anything they could lay their hands on, passing them outside to the other toughs. Bingham addressed Booker. "Thanks to your little recruitment meetings, they all know about that tool room." He looked at the large digital clock on the wall. "Nearly 3 in the morning. They might pause to get some sleep. I predict they'll approach us at first light." Booker chuckled. "So predictable." Elisha looked to her right, and along the back wall, facing the big screens, was a sizable group of faceless people sitting in the dark. Bingham spoke to them, apparently in the middle of a lecture. "We interviewed and handpicked every child. This year we were looking for a particular personality, the media-oriented, amusement-dependent consumer type. A child who hears with his eyes, thinks with his feelings, and has been made to believe there are no absolutes and therefore no right or wrong. Children from dysfunctional families were preferred. Runaways provided an ideal subject pool." He looked toward the big screens as a technician cued a recording. There, while one big screen continued to show the rating of the tool room, another big screen replayed footage of the red-headed woman, Margaret Jones, talking with Ramon, then Brittany, then Alice Marcy Cher Mariah Joan, then Harold Alex Carlson and Alvin Rogers over a bowl of soup in a youth shelter, asking them questions about right and wrong and showing them a brochure. "Using what we've learned in previous years, we've been able to isolate and encourage a personality type that doesn't think, but only follows, and believes any lie as long as there is pleasure attached to it. Oh, and please note this result." Elisha saw herself in a muddy, dark picture, with faces blinking in and out of the dark as unsteady flashlight beams flashed around the room. The camera zoomed in on Joan's face as she said, "I was afraid," and ran out of the building. "One of our finest moments. Take away truth, and people will lie. Scoff at virtue, and betrayal becomes a matter of course." "Then these techniques really work?" said a man in the audience. Oh, absolutely, if you'll pardon the expression. The audience laughed. But it takes time, the right personalities, the right circumstances. So what about this young lady? Someone asked. Said Bingham with a testy side glance at Elisha. This young lady and her brother. He nodded to the technician. Elisha was stunned. Now she was watching Margaret Jones talk to her and Elijah at that same table in the same youth shelter. We chose these two because they do have a strong religious background and they do believe in absolutes. Our goal, of course, was to compare their reactions to the same situations and see if their particular system of truth could be broken. With another sideways glance at Elisha, Bingham quipped, and as we anticipated, it hasn't been easy. Bingham nodded to the technician, and another video began to play on the big screen. Elijah and Elisha reciting the 10 Commandments in Booker's class. The two of them debating Mr. Easley. Elijah telling Booker, for you, it's all power and money. For me, it's God. It's truth. I could never work for you. And Elisha surrounded by the kids in the rec center, handing the scarf back to Cher. The audience members groaned with dismay at every scene. No. Be encouraged. It's all data, useful in future research. For example, the technician cued another recording, and there on the big screen was a video of Elijah and Alex having their terrible fight, and a few instant replays of Elijah finally decking Alex with a high kick. The audience loved that. You'll notice how even a reasonable person can be reduced to brute force when truth and reason are no longer available. But this is why we brought them here. Let's face it, children of this type will always be our greatest challenge. They're difficult to deceive. They can't be programmed. They don't believe something if it isn't true. They don't put their own comfort before their sense of right and wrong. And worst of all, they actually think things through. As we have seen, discussion groups and consensus conditioning couldn't undermine this mentality, nor could peer pressure, nor could intimidation and fear. However, Bingham came closer to Elisha, eyeing her as if she were a rat in an experiment. We have both of them in place for the final phase, and we're ready. But, Stern asked, jotting on his clipboard, how do we factor in the fact that they are undercover investigators? The audience rustled and murmured with alarm, but Bingham held up his hand. It only sweetens the pie. That call she made will actually be to our advantage, bringing all the birds into one snare, so to speak. And, judging from the condition of her brother, in just a matter of hours, neither... Chapter 14. The Mind Maze. Let's try that all-night gas station, said Nate, still waking up. Sarah pulled in next to the pumps. I'll fill the tank. Sarah started pumping the gas, watching Nate conversing with the big woman inside the gas station. The woman was shaking her head, looking like she didn't know anything. Nate and Sarah had seen that response a lot since arriving in Idaho. A pickup truck pulled in on the other side of the pumps between Sarah and the store. The driver of the pickup started pumping gas into his truck, leaning against the side of his truck, his eyes staring into the distance at nothing in particular. Sarah glanced at him and moved quickly behind the pumping station, turning her back, stroking her forehead to conceal her face. Hang on, girl. Don't freak out. Steady, steady. Carefully, discreetly, she edged around the pumping station just enough to catch a good look at the man's face. It was the clerk from the Dartmoor Hotel. Get out here, Nate. Come on, get out here. She hung up the nozzle, screwed on the gas cap, and jumped into the car, ready and waiting behind the wheel. Clunk. The little man hung up the nozzle and climbed into his cab. Nate! The pickup pulled out of the station. Nate was walking back, looking at some scribbled notes. Sarah put the heel of her hand to the car horn and left it there. That got his attention. She gestured at him madly, and he ran. Mr. Bingham turned toward the big screens. The maze.
All 4 screens combined to form one huge image, that of a tiny figure stumbling, staggering, arms covering his head, surrounded by a mad swirling of shapes, surfaces, colors, sounds, swept and tossed like a particle of lint in a cosmic washing machine. Elisha bolted to her feet. "Elijah!" The thin tech with the ponytail stepped in. "Please, sit down. It'll be all right." Elisha watched her brother fall, get up again, turn several circles, clamp his hands over his ears. "Stop it! Stop it! What are you doing to him?" Bingham nodded to a technician who went to work at his console. The horrible bedlam subsided. The colors faded. The noise quieted down. Elijah was now in a white fog, with nothing visible around him. He was standing still, dazed, staring, half-conscious, like Alvin Rogers. Bingham began explaining to his audience. "This is a continuation of a previous experiment. As you recall, a breach in the system allowed our last subject to escape, but that problem was quickly contained, and now we have a replacement volunteer. The question before us: can the human psyche really function in the absence of truth? How far can the mind go when nothing at all can be known for certain?" He looked at Elisha, checking her over, and then nodded to the techs sitting at all those consoles. Lights came on around Elisha, making her jump. Suddenly, she saw herself on the big screen, sitting in the same chair, except she looked great. She was wearing a white blouse, a clean pair of jeans, some cool Western jewelry, and a pair of boots beyond a Springfield budget. Her face was clean, her hair was neat, and she wasn't sitting in a strange little green alcove surrounded by lights. She was sitting quite comfortably in the family room of a huge log home. There was a large stone fireplace behind her, soft living room furniture around her, a deep wool rug on the floor. There was a weird white fog in the room, but it was quickly dissolving away. Elijah's ears were ringing and his head was spinning, but for now the ride was over. He'd already thrown up a 3rd time, and his stomach felt like it would never hold food again. But at least whatever was under his feet, it had stopped moving. The white fog around him was clearing. He thought he saw a wool rug below him, and then a wall made of logs, a soft couch, a crackling fire in a stone fireplace. "Elijah," came a lovely voice, like an angel. He knew that voice. "Elijah." He saw her, seated in a comfortable chair, smiling at him. "Sis?" he asked, his voice hoarse from screaming. "It's all right, Elijah," she said. "Come and sit down. Take a load off." He hobbled forward, comforted by her smiling face, by the warmth of the lovely room. "Is this heaven?" He sank onto the couch, then reclined, his head sinking into the soft pillows. "It feels great to finally rest, doesn't it?" He could only nod his head. "So just let go." Even with his mind mangled, Elijah found a tiny spark of curiosity. Let go of what?" "The struggle, trying to know. That's where all the pain comes from. Life is so much easier when you don't have to worry about truth." "That lying little imp!" Elisha said to herself as she watched herself on the screen. "Elijah, don't believe her!" So the whole thing was a hologram, an incredibly realistic 3-dimensional projection. That explained the mysterious image of her brother that lured her into this place. She looked above her. For the first time she noticed a camera lens pointing down at her from the ceiling. These clever people were recording her image as she sat in the chair, enhancing it with all their fancy computers, and reassembling it in front of her maze-dazed brother, making it tell outrageous lies. "I've got to get through to him." Nate and Sarah followed the pickup to a slightly sagging little cabin off a side road. Sarah walked right up on the front porch and gave the front door several sharp raps. The little man opened the door, plainly curious and annoyed. "Yes?" "Hi.
Sorry to disturb you so early in the morning. I was wondering, have you seen a boy and a girl around here, both 16, good-looking, like their mother?" He started to shake his head, but then he got a good look at her. She confirmed it for him. "You know me, from the Dartmoor Hotel in Seattle. You were the desk clerk, remember? I'm busy." He started to close the door. She kicked the door, hurling it open and hurling him a good distance, too. "Or maybe it was the Light of Day Youth Shelter. I get the two confused." He was about to argue further, but there was an angry mama bear coming into his house. He turned, ran through the cabin and out the back door, where Nate was waiting for him, and quickly slammed him face first against the back wall, holding him there in an inescapable arm lock. "Now we can make this really simple. You have our kids, and we want them." "I don't know what you're talking about." He gave the little man another slam against the wall. "Wrong answer," a voice behind them ordered. "Let him go, Springfield. Easy now. We're on the same side. The name's Nelson Farmer. I'm with the Bureau for Missing Children. I've been on this case since your children disappeared." "Nelson Farmer," Sarah repeated thoughtfully. "So who's this guy?" "One of the people we're after. He's a front man for the Night Moor Project, and we're in the same boat as you are. There are kids missing, and we want to know what he knows. Now just take it easy and let him go." There was a wooden bench on the back porch. Nate put the man there, keeping an eye on him. Sarah approached Nelson Farmer. "What do you know about our kids? Where are they?" "We're clearing up the details right now." Farmer stepped forward, reaching inside his jacket. "No!" Sarah grabbed his arm, forcing it skyward. Nate was there in an instant, but Sarah already had Farmer in a very painful arm hold, and with a skillful judo move, she threw him to the ground. In less than a second, Farmer was looking up into the barrel of his own gun, now in Sarah's hand. "I've had someone pull a gun on me before, and that's what it looked like." Nate caught a movement out of the corner of his eye. The little man was gone. Nate took off after him. He heard a cry of pain and a scuffle as he came around the front of the cabin, then came face to face with 4 big guys in green jackets with big yellow letters on the front. U.S. Marshal. The little man was dangling from their strong arms. Sarah thought the Marines had arrived. More deputy marshals began flooding the backyard, guns ready. "Sarah Springfield?" asked one. "Yes. Sorry we're late." They had Farmer. She handed over Farmer's gun. "He was going to kill you just as he killed Alvin Rogers," said a familiar voice coming around the cabin, "which would have repaired the breach in secrecy, except for your children, of course." It was Morgan, walking with Nate. "Your little hotel clerk was simply a decoy to lure you here." "To a secluded place with no witnesses," said Nate. "Exactly. You would have disappeared without a trace. Hello, Sarah. As for your red-headed woman, she is actually a Ms. Marion Winger, a long-time confidant and associate of Mr. Farmer there. Once cornered, she was very cooperative and warned us that Farmer was following you. Since we knew where you were, we knew where Farmer would be." Morgan spoke to Nate, but also for Farmer's benefit. "He's been taking advantage of a sacred trust, using his position and the files at the Bureau for Missing Children to screen and recruit runaways for experimentation. Ms. Winger was his field agent. She gave us all the details." Morgan knelt beside the handcuffed Farmer. "And now, Mr. Farmer, you will tell us exactly where the children are." Elijah could only rest his head on the pillow and close his eyes as his sister went on and on. "I love being able to create my own reality. I can be what I want, do what I want, and I don't have to worry about what God thinks." He was disappointed. After all he'd been through, he was actually hoping this was heaven. He was even hoping this was really his sister. Now his jumbled mind was beginning to put a few pieces together that left him with a discouraging conclusion. He was still in the middle of a waking nightmare, and he was probably going crazy. He cracked one eye open. The pretty girl was still talking, her eyes focused somewhere across the room and not on him. His eye was drawn to her right hand, resting on the arm of the chair. Her fingers were drumming out a little rhythm, over and over again. Elisha watched the big screen on the wall, trying to look as amazed and distraught as before as she drummed her fingers on the arm of her chair.
God was answering her prayer. The other Elisha, while droning on and on about there being no truth, was drumming her fingers the very same way. The computer had picked it up as just a mannerism and sent it through to the phony image. Mr. Bingham's voice squeaked with nervous anticipation. Theoretically, his mind should be adequately erased by this point, ready to receive the input from what he thinks is his sister. Now everyone watched the screen with all the more interest and anxiety, and Elisha kept tapping away, sending the same message. Elijah closed his eyes and tried to block out the girl's endless ramblings. He was listening to those finger taps, the only thing that made sense. It was code, Springfield code, OR60CLOCK, PRO, projector, 6 o'clock, projector. The letters kept repeating like an endless loop, the same number of seconds every time. Same number of seconds. Same length of time. Repeating pattern. A rhythm. A beat. A pulse. Whoa, hold on. He knew this pulse. This beat. He'd been living with it. It was everywhere. The rushing of the wind. The throbbing of the ground. The swaying of the trees. The rhythm of the rooms, the halls, the colors. It all kept time to this beat. Like a machine running, around and around, over and over. He could feel it like it was a part of him. "They're at the gate!" shouted Easley, switching one of the monitor screens to a shot of the big iron gate. Almost every kid on the campus was there, an angry mob of nearly 50, armed with axes, picks, rakes, shovels, banging, prying, bashing, digging away at the gate. Bingham turned to the audience. "You see? After 4 years of research, we can now create the right circumstances and in less than 2 weeks produce a dictator and his followers. This Alexander could have done very well as a global dictator. And I think he knows it, too. Why else would he choose such a name? Stand by for closing procedure." Bingham turned to the thin guy in black. "Begin shutdown and evacuation." Red lights began to flash overhead. Bingham turned to the audience. "We are reaching the end of the experiment. Please prepare to evacuate." The audience began to stir around in the dark, shuffling papers, opening and closing briefcases, grabbing coats. Elisha was watching her image. Her entire message wasn't getting through, only the little part about the projector repeating over and over. The computer must have hit a glitch or something. Her plan wasn't working. "Mr. Bingham!" He was occupied. Teachers and technicians were starting to scramble everywhere. Some of the equipment was closing down. At the far end of the room, a door slid open and the audience began heading for it. "Mr. Bingham, when are you going to let my brother out of there?" Bingham watched the screen. "When I know what I want to know, of course." "You mean when you can know and he can't?" Bingham smiled at her. "Brilliant." Elijah was counting seconds every time. 6 seconds. The loop was 6 seconds. He closed his eyes and listened to the room. He could hear the air recycle every 6 seconds. The girl, still talking, seemed to take a little breath every 6 seconds. Wow. In all this mess, he could know something. A sweet 6 seconds. So what about the code those fingers kept tapping out? Maybe he could know that too. Projector 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock. Did she mean projector behind him? He opened his eyes and looked toward the ceiling. He didn't see anything. Not yet. It was all going like clockwork, well rehearsed. The audience remained in the shadows by the door, watching the final seconds of the great experiment on the big screens. "All right," said Bingham. "Let them in." The tech threw a switch, and with a loud creak and groan, the iron gate broke open. "Let's go!" Alexander yelled, and the whole mob moved forward, through the gate and up the walk. "Let's contain them," Bingham ordered. "Demolition, report. Dozers in position. Charges armed." Bingham smiled. "I've grown to love this part." Overhead, there was a faint pounding. The front door of the mansion appeared on one of the big screens. Alexander and his mob had reached it and were trying to break it in. Let them work at it for a while. Let them have a feeling of accomplishment." "Mr. Bingham!" Easley shouted, pointing to the other screen. Every eye in the place went to that screen.
There were audible gasps. Even Elisha gasped, and her heart went sick. Elijah had become a madman, singing, jumping, dancing around the room, hiding behind the chair where the phony Elisha sat, then jumping up, then hiding again, circling, ranting, raving. Bingham got closer to the screen. "More sound, please." Elijah was singing, "I got a brain, and you've got a brain, and it's so much pain. I've got a brain, and you've got a brain, and it's so much poop." Then he laughed and started ranting, "Gobbledy, gobbledy, 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 cook! Gobbledy, 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 geek!" Then he rolled on the floor, kicking his feet in the air, then spun in sideways circles, pedaling against the floor with his feet. And Bingham roared with laughter. Easley reached up and shook his hand. "Congratulations!" Booker came over and did the same. "Congratulations. So, these people can be broken after all." "Make sure we get a full record of the data," said Bingham. "My brother," said Elisha, her spirit collapsing in sorrow. "My sweet brother." "All right," said Bingham. "Open the door. Let's be done with it." A tech threw another switch, and the front door of the mansion caved in. "Be sure they all get inside." The screens combined into one big composite and switched to an interior shot of what looked like Alexander and his mob pouring into a huge warehouse. A vast empty shell with bare white walls, expansive concrete floor, high windows, but no rooms, no stairs, no furniture, nothing. The mansion on the hill, that huge foreboding structure that had all the kids in awe, that mysterious citadel where power resided, that symbol of ultimate authority and rulership, was a fake, an empty shell, a big nothing. "Everyone's inside," reported the tech. "Seal them in," said Bingham. The tech threw a switch, and on the screen the front and side doors of the empty shell suddenly disappeared as huge panels slammed into place. The kids started screaming. Bingham looked at Elisha and told his crew. Chapter 15. Veritas. Mr. Bingham threw some papers into his briefcase and fastened it shut. "Leave Mr. Springfield in the maze while the computer finishes the program. An apt closure, don't you think?" On his way to join the others going out the door, he stopped by Elisha's little TV stage. "After today, the Nightmare Academy will cease to exist, even as a memory, and your investigation will be moot. But make no mistake, what we've learned here will definitely live on, in schools, in films, on television, in recordings, in textbooks, and my friends and I will simply wait. After all, when the world does fall into chaos, such as we've demonstrated here, someone will have to take charge, won't they?" "It'll be all about power," said Elisha. "And we will have it," said Bingham with a wink. "Goodbye." Bingham crossed the room and disappeared through the door. The thin technician with the ponytail came over to Elisha, said, "I'm very sorry," and threw a lever. A panel in the wall opened. The platform pitched forward, and Elisha tumbled into a tight, elevator-sized cavity. It lurched upward, rotated, came to a stomach-turning halt, and threw her out. "It's Sally!" "Sally! Where did she come from? Is that the way out of here? What's happening, Sally? What's going to happen?" She got to her feet, looking at all the frightened faces looking back at her. Brett was exploring the white, featureless walls with frightened eyes, looking helpless. Rory and his gang were looking scared. They wouldn't be slugging and bullying their way out of this problem. At the far end of the room, standing alone and looking very small in this huge empty shell of a house, was Alexander. Alexander, the great leader, and this was his mighty revolution. He had made it to the top, to the pinnacle of power. He'd taken the mansion, and the mansion was empty. "My name isn't Sally," Elisha said. "It's Elisha Springfield. Jerry's real name is Elijah, and he's my brother. And this whole thing was just one big lie. Harold Carlson hasn't conquered anything." Harold Alexander Carlson just stood there, speechless, crestfallen, staring at the walls while his followers stared at him. He had no orders to give, no new visions for the future.
an explosion close enough to shake the floor. They ran to the windows and could see a ball of fire and billowing smoke where Dorm A once stood. At the very edge of the campus, a huge yellow bulldozer was rumbling onto the field. "Oh, oh, oh!" The sound of a faraway explosion totally rattled the little man. "I didn't know they were going to kill the kids, I swear. They never killed the kids before. All the other times, all the other years, they had the kids for 2 weeks, and then the kids went home and everything was okay. I should have suspected something when they started signing up runaways." Nate locked eyes with him. "What are you saying?" "It's the 5th year. The last experiment. This time they have to erase everything. Not just the campus. I mean, the kids. Everything." "How do we get there?" "There's a tunnel." "Where?" The man rattled his handcuffs. "I'll take you there. Just let me loose." Elijah was getting toward the end of his strength, trying to be unpredictable, but his theory was proving out. The whole world froze for a minuscule moment every 6 seconds, like clockwork. What he knew right now was that the computer running this mad ride was reloading and processing information on a 6-second cycle. If he gave the computer new information it wasn't expecting, silly songs with the last word changed or not rhyming when it should, then the computer had to process all that new information, which took time, and this horrible, crazy world would actually blink, just for an instant, every 6 seconds. After several crazy, exhausting cycles, he knew when to expect it, like dancing to the rhythm of music. His dear sister was right. Behind the couch where he'd been lying, the round shape of a lens would flash into view, quick like the click of a shutter, every 6 seconds. The projector at 6 o'clock. "Okay," he said to himself and anyone listening. "One more time." The wall blinked after 6 seconds. Now he was sure where the lens was, and within another 6 seconds Elijah caught sight of a real wall beyond the log wall and the steel rungs of a ladder. He ran forward, eyes locked open to see the next blink. There were the rungs again, embedded in the wall just 2 feet to the left, within reach. His hand locked onto a steel rung that wasn't there. No, it is there. The ladder is real. Climb, Elijah, climb, no matter what your senses tell you. He groped. Then he grabbed another unseen, almost unfelt rung and pulled again. Now his toe found a rung, and he pushed with his leg. He was climbing out of there, no matter what the room said, no matter what he thought he was seeing. Boom! Another explosion rattled the valley. "They're erasing the campus," said Elisha. "They're going to cover up everything they did here." Warren was beside her, looking out the same window. "So what are they going to do with us?" Elisha couldn't say it. She didn't even want to think it. Boom! There went the main classroom building, all of Ms. Fitzhugh's artwork, all the foreign language materials, all the history and social studies books. Ashes, fragments of desks and tattered pages floated through the air like snowflakes. Nate and Sarah could hear the explosion, even feel it in their feet as they followed the little hotel clerk through the woods to a narrow tunnel hewn and blasted out of the rock. It used to be a mine entrance, but they bored it out to use as an escape tunnel. They had this whole thing planned from the beginning. This time the sound of the explosion came echoing at them through the tunnel. "Sounds like this'll get us there," said Nate, clicking on a flashlight. The marshal reached into his belt and produced a spare semi-automatic pistol, handing it to Nate. "You may need this." "Thanks." They plunged into the black, endless throat of the tunnel. Elijah kept going, grabbing and pulling, stepping and pushing, rung after rung. His head broke into the clear. Suddenly, as if he'd just broken through the surface of a lake, he could see cables and wiring, a vast steel gridwork supporting lights, holographic projectors, movable walls and panels, color and sound generators. It looked like the most expensive movie soundstage ever built. He could clearly see the rungs of the ladder now, embedded in the concrete wall he was climbing, and directly above him, a catwalk. He pulled himself out of the swirling light and rolled onto the catwalk. Below him, the pleasant family room, several disjointed hallways, even some phony forest wavered and rippled as if they were underwater. He'd had enough of this place. There was a door at the far end of the catwalk. He pulled himself to his feet, then limped and staggered through that door. He was in a control room. Most likely the place where they concocted and controlled his continuous mind-frying hell. The place was deserted. He turned to see huge screens on the wall and immediately recognized his sister and most of the student's body, all banging, gouging, prying with garden tools, trying to get out of a huge white room with high windows. His mind was tired. He watched them struggle, but nothing made any sense. Then one piece fell into place. Those windows look like the mansion's windows. Next piece. It's the mansion. Final piece. They're trapped inside. Immediately below the screens, a computer monitor flickered, running through columns and graphics. He stared at it. What is this? Lines of information in bright red. Dormitory A, Dormitory B, main classroom, library. To the left of each line, 4 zeros and the flashing word, done. Below these were the rest of the campus structures, all listed in green, preceded by 4 digits and the word standby. The numbers below Dormitory C were counting down. At the very bottom was the line 055.5, standby, mansion and control center. Was all this supposed to mean something? He just kept staring, his mind an exhausted, burned-out blob inside his head. This time it was Dorm C. Beyond the smoke and flame, he could see another bulldozer standing by. Elijah saw the explosion on the big screen, and then he saw the line, Dormitory C, go from green to red. The numbers were all zeros, and the computer reported with the flashing word, done. Oh, great. The computer was executing a program, setting off charges to destroy all the buildings, with this building the last on the list. Elijah could see the exit door still open. He could still get out of here. He could also see his sister and classmates struggling, crying, trying to get out of the mansion. I won't leave you here, Elisha. He remained seated at the console, staring at the monitor, praying he could figure out how in the world to abort the program. Dear Lord Jesus, I need your help. Right now. I mean, really, right now. Please. They're going to blow up everything, aren't they? Said Rory. Even this building, Warren added. From all she had seen and heard in the control room, Elisha could only reach one conclusion. Yes, I believe they are. Another explosion. The concussion pounded the mansion like a drum. The kids flinched, cried, screamed. The rec center was gone, and all the games were reduced to black burning ash adrift in the wind. Elijah kept staring at the screen, trying to grab hold of something. Okay, red means the building's blown. Green means it's going to be blown. The numbers counting down mean the number of seconds and tenths of seconds before each blast. There was a field labeled reset. He clicked on that, but got an error message. Please enter reset quantity. Reset quantity. What quantity? Come on. What's the relationship? How did they stack the numbers? Oh, Lord, don't let it be a logarithm, not today. The campus exchange billowed into the sky, a cloud of splinters, pulverized stone, and shredded Night Moor sports clothing and souvenirs. Nate and Sarah heard the explosion just before they broke out of the tunnel into the daylight, and now they could see the smoke through the trees, filling the valley below. Up ahead, through the trees, Nate, Sarah, and Morgan could see the towering white walls of a huge mansion. They ran for it. Boom! Another structure went up in a ball of fire and smoke. They heard bulldozers in the valley scraping, rolling, squeaking. Morgan started crashing down the hill through the trees, shouting at the marshals, "Stop those bulldozers! Stop them!" Then Nate and Sarah heard something else, a low, close to the ground snuffling, then a snorting. Some bushes rustled, twigs snapped. Nate aimed his pistol in the direction of the noise. There was a growl, the pounding of big feet. They saw a large, furry form charging through the brush, and then a monstrous head appeared, a roaring bear with glistening teeth. Nate fired 2 rounds, then a third. Sparks exploded from the bear's mouth and chest. The big creature began to jerk and jolt like a poorly driven car until finally it lurched to a stop only a few yards away, hissing and smoking, the growl reduced to garbled radio noise.
Hydraulic fluid dribbled out on the ground. This bear had steel wheels on his feet. No time to wonder about it. They ran on. The computer monitor was telling Elijah that the cafeteria had just blown up. Elijah went to the bottom of the list, just 3 lines down now, and checked out the building where he and the other kids were this very moment. Hey, 55.5 seconds. That has to be the demolition cycle. 55.5 seconds. He entered that from the keyboard. Error. Please enter reset quantity. Sarah heard some faint noises, looked, and it was like seeing the heavens opened. There was Elisha trapped behind the glass. Nate! Nate! It's Elisha! The sound of a big machine echoed up from the valley. I'll be right back. Nate took off down the walkway toward the big open gate. Kaboom! The office building was history. Elijah was talking out loud to himself. Okay, 55.5, 55.5, okay, yeah, increments of 55.5, okay, twice that is, 111, okay, reset, 2 billings to go, we're counting down from 111, he entered 111, error, please enter reset quantity. Nate bumped the nearest bulldozer operator from his machine and took over. He put the big monster in high gear, opened the throttle, and crossed the field like an army tank. Boom! The last remaining structure on the campus went up like a volcano. Nate was rolling, screeching up the walkway, heading for the mansion, looking for the best place to ram a hole. He gestured wildly to Sarah. Get the kids back! Sarah waved. Get back! Get back! The kids inside ran to the farthest corner, dragging any kids too hysterical to move on their own. Sirens began shrieking in the control room. Strobes began to flash. Elijah had only 1 green line left, and it was counting down. 55 seconds. 45. 35. 25. 12 buildings, 12 lines, 12 times 55.5. Elijah couldn't do it in his head. The sirens were jumbling what was left of his brain. He looked for some paper and a pencil. Nate rolled across the front lawn, digging out deep, ugly track marks in the grass. He yanked the right lever, spun the big cat around, and headed for the front wall, just to the right of the porch. Full throttle now, straight on. Seatbelt fastened? No paper, no pencil. Okay, we had 111 on the second line, second of 12. That means 6 times 111. Really? He typed in 666.0. No error message. 5 seconds. He clicked on reset. Program reset. Click OK to restart. Don't click OK! The numbers stopped counting down. At 2 seconds. The sirens turned off. The strobes quit flashing. The blade of the bulldozer tore into the front wall of the mansion, bending, ripping, breaking. Daylight streamed in through the widening gash, and the kids began to leap and cry and cheer. Nate backed up, took another run, and pushed the metal sheeting and framework farther aside until he had a gap wide enough for escape. He left the machine right there to hold the gap open, leaped from the seat, and gestured to the kids inside. Come on, let's go! Leaning back in his chair, numb and exhausted, Elijah watched the big screen on the wall above him with the kids streaming out through that gap. He could also see his mom and dad helping each one, hugging any who needed it, and hurrying them all away from the building. Oh, God. Thank you for letting me think again. Then he looked around the incredibly complex room and shook his head. No truth, huh? Then how did they... Epilogue. Nate sat at his computer drafting a final report for Mr. Morgan and, via Morgan, the president. Most of the people arrested on that day were visitors, scholars, thinkers, academics, unfamiliar with the academic grounds and certainly not dressed for fleeing through thick forest. While not known widely by the public, these people have proven very influential in guiding the course of public education over the past 15 to 20 years, and would have had a keen interest in the experimental findings of the Knight Moore project. Nevertheless, since none of them were directly responsible for anything that occurred at the academy, it's doubtful they can be prosecuted. The real perpetrators and creators of the project, known only by such dubious aliases as Bingham, Booker, and Easley, are still at large. The Knightmore Project had the backing and protection of key people in Congress and in the Department of Education under the previous administration, and those same people can be expected to protect and hide Bingham and his friends until a more opportune time. I can only wish you God's providence in finding them. Most of the children are safely home again, and there's abundant material evidence from the Academy's main control center and the maze, as my children call it. It will be an involved process to reconstruct what the entire project was about and to arm ourselves against letting such an agenda ever succeed. Nate paused to thank God for the 2 kids he could see out by the barn, saddling up their horses. Elijah is thinking and formulating more clearly than ever, thrilled with every new fact, excited just to be able to learn and know things. Elisha is writing an account of her adventure. Her first pages reflect a depth and intensity we've never seen before. Both of them have changed in a way Bingham and his cronies hadn't counted on. Having lived in a world without truth, each has come back all the more a lover of truth and a hater of lies. And therein lies our hope. We are a free people because we live according to what we know is right or wrong. The Knightmore Project was an experiment to discover what would happen to people when there is no truth, to observe what people can do when pushed to the extreme with no ultimate moral foundation. Small wonder then that Jesus said, "You shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free." And where else can truth, real truth, come from than from God, who is truth by his very nature? 2 loving arms wrapped around his shoulders. He looked up as Sarah kissed him. "How's it going?" "Almost done. I'll fax it off to Morgan tonight." Sarah looked out the window. "So, they're finally back to the horseback ride they were going to take before all this started that afternoon Morgan came." The kids started riding, out the paddock gate and up the dirt road toward the mountain trail. Elijah was singing one of his goofy songs, his head thrown back, his face to the big sky. Elisha's hair was glowing on her shoulders as she gave him her tolerant sister look. "They look so free." Nate nodded, his arm around her. "They are free." With a kick to their sides, the horses broke into a gallop, spiriting their young riders into the wind and the wide open country, up a winding trail, into the hills, and out of sight.